Chapter 3675. Those who didn't even have the qualifications to follow the expedition didn't even need to think about restarting. Many people were looking forward to it because there was no mention of restarting after the life forms in the consciousness universe were destroyed. They were willing to wait. There was also a rumor that anyone who experienced the restarting of the universe would have a hope of crossing the bitter adversity and entering the eternal realm, regardless of their current realm. Although this rumor was purposely made up to comfort the majority of cultivators, there was no lack of people who believed it. Boundless was in the middle of the 7 ships, but it wasn't the largest. The spiritualized universe had a leading ship that was even larger than Boundless. It was called Reboot, a name that represented the spiritualized universe's wishes. Boundless was second only to Reboot in size. Lu Yin stood atop Boundless and looked into the distance. Yusang Tian's order had caught him off guard. No one had expected an expedition to come so suddenly. Previously he had used the consciousness lifeforms hidden in parallel spacetime to delay the expedition, and he had succeeded. After all, there was still the threat of 13 celestial phenomenon, and Yusang Tian wouldn't leave so easily. However, this sudden change made Lu Yin feel that Yusang Tian had other plans. He was too impatient and he didn't even have time to pick up the bricks. Could it be related to the Nina Firmament's universe? Lu Yin looked up at the sky, wanting to see the Nina Firmament's universe, but he couldn't see anything. Boundless would eventually have to follow the expedition to the consciousness universe. The only thing Lu Yin could do was increase Boundless' chances of survival, and the Truth Sutra's appearance was one of his methods. The changes in the 9 heavens and the Truth Sutra were the strength of the Nina Firmament's universe's cultivators. Now that they had been brought to Boundless, Lu Yin hoped that he could bring them back to the Tianyuan universe one day. The ship wasn't fast and many cultivators looked into the distance along the way. Many gazes landed on Boundless. The spiritualized universe seemed familiar with Boundless, but at the same time unfamiliar. They didn't know how many people were in Boundless. Lu Yin alone seemed to magnify the entire Boundless before the spiritualized universe, but he also concealed much of it. With the ship's current speed, it would take more than a month to reach the border from the Arc region. A month wasn't a long time, especially for cultivators. It was just the time to close their eyes. Along the way, Lu Yin let Yishang out. Yishang had been suppressed in the general appointment platform for a long time, and after coming out he seemed to be in a daze and had experienced unspeakable suffering. Long time no see, Yishang. Lu Yin clasped his hands behind his back and looked at him. The reason why Yishang had been suppressed in the general appointment platform hell for so long was to take revenge on him for leading the spiritualized universe on an expedition to the Tianyuan universe. This expedition had caused many deaths in the Tianyuan universe. Lu Yin couldn't forget how Yishang had used the sealed realm to wipe out 12 mechas in Nong Yi. Nong Yi was the first ancestor realm expert to be conferred godhood by him. He had helped him and died at the border battlefield. Even with the passage of time, that battle could not be erased from his memories. Many people said that once one reached a certain height, they would be able to let go of their past grudges. This was because if one stood at too high a level, it would be too narrow-minded to care about the past. However, just as Lu Yin had said when he had attacked the Lotus Venerate's disciple Lingmu, forgetting the past was tantamount to betraying the future. It was also irresponsible to one's past and irresponsible to those past experiences. Revenge was not necessarily a derogatory term. It was also an explanation for what had happened in the past. Yishang was still in a daze when he heard Lu Yin's voice. Yin raised her head and looked at Lu Yin, her eyes filled with confusion. He could no longer distinguish between reality and the cycle. Was the person in front of him a real person or a situation that he had encountered in the past? Those people who had clearly died kept appearing, and it was as if he had returned to the past. This feeling could only be understood after experiencing it. Heartless people were not afraid, but how could a person be heartless? The appearance of an enemy was not scary, but the most frightening thing was the appearance of someone who brought about feelings. His loved ones and family were like layers of dusty scars that were constantly being uncovered. The pain was multiplied, and it was not something that could be resisted with his cultivation. Yishang, long time no see. Lu Yin repeated. To Lu Yin it had only been a few months, but to Yishang it felt like several lifetimes. Yishang stared blankly at Lu Yin. Are you real or fake? Lu Yin looked at Yishang's confused and gloomy gaze. Revenge was enough. He raised a hand and tapped out. Yishang did not even react, allowing Lu Yin to tap on his forehead. Instantly his entire body felt cool and the surrounding scenery flowed like water. It gradually became clear and real. A breeze blew past, lifting his hair and blocking his vision. He raised his hand and felt the warmth of the wind. He slowly closed his eyes and exhaled. He lay down and did not move for a long time. Lu Yin just stood there like that. In the distance, many gazes swept over from the people on boundless horizon. Many of them belonged to the spiritualized universe, and they had been brought here by dancing butterfly border. When they looked at Lu Yin again, their gazes changed. This was Yishang, the great Enchanting. What exactly had he experienced to cause such despair? What kind of ruthless methods did this Lu Sangtian have? In the past, they had only known that this Lu Sangtian was an absolute expert who had refreshed their understanding of him time and time again. Only now did they realize that this person was also an expert at torturing others. Even Yi Sangtian could not withstand it and was now lying on the ground. Yuan Qi's gaze was complicated and his fingers were trembling. Yu Shan felt the same way as he had experienced it before. It had only been a short time, but judging from Yi Sangtian's posture, it had probably been a long time. Princess Yao had also experienced it, and she had been directly asked to be a maid without even refusing. She would rather die than fall into Lu Sangtian's hands, or else she would not be able to die even if she begged for it. The greatest fairness in the world was death, as everyone would die eventually. However, Lu Sangtian had taken away this fairness. After a long time, Yishang finally moved. He took a deep breath, raised his head and slowly stood up. He sat on the ground without a care for his image. Compared to what he had experienced, being able to see the truth was already a great fortune. Lu Yin spoke for the third time. Long time no see, Yishang. Yishang looked at Lu Yin with an indescribable fear in the depths of his eyes. If even the right to die was taken away from him, then that person would be very pitiful. Long time no see, Lu Sangtong. His words came from the bottom of his heart. It really had been a long time. Lu Yin's lips curled up as he stared at Yishang. I've prolonged your life. The fear in Yishang's eyes intensified when he heard Lu Yin's words, and even an ordinary person could see it. Life is worse than death. Lu Yin was amused and he slowly sat down across from Yishang. Image. When one reached a certain height, their actions would represent their image. How can that be? Many people enjoy such experiences, but you don't? Master Lu, just tell me what you want me to do. Yishang did not have any desire to speak. He only wanted to distance himself from such experiences, and he wanted Lu Yin to give him a guarantee. Lu Yin raised a hand and a wooden wing appeared in his palm. It was Yishang's turbid treasure. I don't understand. How do I use this thing? The vegetable skeleton's foreign wasteland reclamation. He had obtained the wooden wing, but he could not use it. Yishang's face twitched. Just one step, and he would be able to obtain the wooden wing and disappear completely. If he could disappear, he swore that he would never appear again, not in this lifetime. Even if he had to distance himself from humanity, he would not live under the same sky as this person. It was just one step and he was Lu Sangtian. He could obtain it. However, he did not dare. Even if he could obtain it, he would not dare to try. If he failed, he would be dragged into that experience again. His body trembled at the thought. The price of failure was too great, so great that he did not even dare to try. Even if the person holding the wooden wing was an ordinary person or even a child, he would not dare to snatch it. That price was too great, greater than the heavens. I won't let go. I'll hold it for a year and we'll be able to connect our minds, Yishang said, his voice hoarse and lifeless. Lu Yin smiled. Thank you. The wooden wing was withdrawn, and Yishang heaved a sigh of relief before feeling bitter. He did not even have the courage to try and escape, and he even hoped that the possibility of escaping would never appear. Was this still him? Was he still the Sangtian of the past, a powerhouse who had crossed the bitter disaster realm? Lu Yin stood up and walked to the edge of Limitless. He looked into the distance. Look, we're about to leave the spiritualized universe. Yishang was shocked and slowly stood up. He looked around and saw that there were giant arcs in front and behind him. He also saw cultivators constantly appearing on both sides of the arcs, sending them off with their eyes. This is an expedition to the consciousness universe, Lu Yin said. Yishang frowned as he recalled that Yu Sangtian had once announced that he had learned of the realm of earth from Yi Meng. He would lead the spiritualized universe to sweep through that realm and level the 13 celestial phenomena. He would be able to restart the consciousness universe at any time. They've already set off? Not good. Yishang's expression changed and he looked at Lu Yin's back. Master Lu, please save Yixia. Lu Yin looked back and met Yishang's gaze. Do you think that Yu Sangtian will act against Yixia in Torch City? He definitely will, Yishang said. Lu Yin smiled. You really do care about this grandson of yours. This is just a facade for Yu Sangtian to see. Isn't your son Rong Xiang the one who can truly succeed Yu Sangtian? Yishang's expression dimmed. I might not have a chance to return from the consciousness universe. When I fall into Master Lu's hands, our cooperation with the Gate of Arts will end. The Radiant God Sequence Foundation will no longer belong to us, and Rong Xiang will no longer have a chance. Do you think Yixia still has a chance? Lu Yin asked. Without the Sky Devourer parasol, Yixia would never become Sangtian. Yishang said bitterly, I just hope that he can survive. Lu Yin nodded. A very simple wish. Yishang looked at Lu Yin. If Master Lu can help me, the Grand Universe Chamber of Commerce and the Yi family's countless years of accumulated wealth will all belong to Master Lu. I will also work for Master Lu just like I did in the beginning. Lu Yin quietly looked into the distance and did not speak. The cultivators on both sides looked at Limitless with interesting gazes. They hoped to gain Limitless recognition and help, but they were also afraid that Limitless status would bring them disaster. Many people wanted to be repaid but they did not want to pay the price. They stood in place and paced back and forth, ultimately achieving nothing. Actually, whether these people fought for or retreated, they had a lot of leeway but they could not see it. Chapter 3676. There are two powerful sects that are very suitable for you, and they're both willing to accept you when you're down. Which one will you choose? Lu Yin suddenly asked. Yishang hesitated. I want to. What? Lu Yin laughed. Are you qualified to think about it? Yishang stared at Lu Yin in a daze and then smiled bitterly. Yes, am I qualified to think about it? When I think about it, it means that I've failed. To a sect, a person in dire straits was like an ant, and it was already a great fortune that they were willing to accept him. If this person still wanted to think about it, it would be an insult to the sect. The faster he made his choice, the more recognition the chosen sect would have. Even if it was just the recognition of an ant, it would be more beneficial for the person in dire straits. Even if he might offend another sect, that was not something that needed to be considered. Think. Many people had been ruined by this word. It was better for people to be decisive. Yishang took a deep breath. If he were to return to his youth, he would have decisively chosen one. After all, he had lived for so long and he understood this principle. However, he had been in a high position for too long, and he would unconsciously think for himself. Perhaps this was also his instinct as a businessman. This was very similar to his current situation. Was he qualified to make a deal with Lu Yin? If he saved Yixia, would he give his life's worth of information to Lu Yin and help him do things? Wrong. He would first offer himself and then ask Lu Yin to save Yixia. The order was wrong. Yishang wanted to say something but he did not. Not long after, the group saw the giant door at the border. Lu Yin looked into the distance. There was also a door at the border of the Tianyuan universe and it was very similar. Lu Yin's feelings when he had first seen that door had completely changed. Countless cultivators from the spiritualized universe were already waiting at the border. When they saw the battleships arrive, they all lined up to board. Next, they would go on an expedition to the consciousness universe. Yishang looked in one direction. There were many springboards there that could be used to contact Torch City. When Torch City had first contacted the spiritualized universe, many of the springboards had been destroyed, but the remaining ones could still be used to send messages. Go on, Lu Yin said calmly. Yishang bowed. Thank you, Lu Senggung. He then headed in that direction. 7 huge battleships were lined up in a row. Many cultivators boarded the other 6 battleships. Only Wujiang was not. Every battleship had a bitter adversity expert overseeing it. Meng Sangtian, 9th Spirit, Su Shidao, Old Salamander, Yu Sangtian, Zitianshu of the Sky Beyond Heaven experts, and so on. This expedition to the universe of consciousness had taken away more than half of the spiritualized universe's experts. There were still a few hidden experts in the human-shaped spirit mold, as well as a few hidden experts in the beast-shaped spirit mold. All of them were discovered by Lu Yin. As for the more secretive corners, It was still unknown if Eternal had come. It was unknown how many great beings of the Nine Clouds universe there were. This trip was a grave that the consciousness universe had dug for Yusang-Tian, but no one knew who would be buried there. At the corner of the border, Yishang arrived. He had come to this place many times to talk to Torch City, especially after Xia had become the city lord of Torch City. He was considered the person who came here the most in the spiritualized universe. He was very familiar with this place. However, this time he was stopped. "Senior, please return. Lord Yusang-Tian has ordered that no one is allowed to approach." Yishang did not say a word and forced his way in. From the side, an elder walked out. "Yishang, you dare to disobey Lord Yusang-Tian's orders?" Yishang looked over. "I did not expect that even you would be brought out this time. Right, I remember now. Is this your condition for joining the sky beyond heaven? Did Yusang-Tian give you a spot to restart the universe?" The elder's face was gloomy. He was a bitter adversity expert from the sky beyond heaven. He had once guarded Huamani and prevented Ruguo from returning to Royal God Mountain. Although he had failed twice, this did not prevent him from following Lu Yin to the universe of consciousness. This was the condition that had been agreed upon with Yusang-Tian. Compared to Yishang, who had reached the level of Yusang-Tian, he was somewhat inferior. However, crossing the bitter adversity was a form of capital. His strength was not considered powerful among the bitter adversity experts, but he could still prevent Yishang from using the springboard to contact Torch City. This person's appearance was troublesome for Yishang. The spiritualized universe can contact Torch City. What right does Yusang-Tian have to stop me? Yishang's face was gloomy. The elder said coldly, "Everything in the spiritualized universe belongs to Lord Yusang-Tian, even the border. Leave." Yishang was unwilling. If Torch City did not know about this expedition, the moment Yusang-Tian arrived at Torch City would be the moment of Xia's misfortune. Previously, with Rong Xiang as a backup, supporting Xia to become Yusang-Tian was just a facade. However, now that there was no hope of becoming a radiant god, Xia had become a real hope. He wanted to preserve the Yi family's bloodline. When he thought of this, he attacked. The elder attacked at the same time. Both of them suppressed the area of their battle to prevent others from noticing. However, gradually the aftershocks from their attacks grew larger and larger. After all, they were both bitter adversity experts. Scram! A shout distorted the starry sky and caused the border gate to tremble. Countless cultivators covered their ears and looked in Wu Zhang's direction in shock. This shout came from Lu Yin and the sound wave blasted towards the elder. The elder was shocked and quickly retreated, not daring to take it head-on. He looked at Wu Zhang with a pale face. What a terrifying pressure. Was this Yusang-Tian's level? On the restart, Yusang-Tian looked at Wu Zhang. "Lu Sang-Tian, you've gone too far." Lu Yin looked at the restart. "He's one of my people. What's wrong with using the springboards?" "One of your people?" Yusang-Tian looked at the corner and his gaze landed on Yishang. Yishang's body froze and a chill enveloped him. He did not dare to move, as if he would die if he moved. Lu Yin said calmly, "That's right. He's one of my people." As he spoke, the starry sky changed, and an invisible force pushed Yishang towards the springboards. Yusang-Tian's voice rang out. "Your people have to follow the rules." As he spoke, the pressure from the front pushed Yishang away. The two pressures acted on Yishang, causing him to vomit blood. Yishang could choose to use Yusang-Tian's pressure to offset Lu Yin's because Lu Yin's pressure was not as strong as Yusang-Tian's. However, he did not do so and endured the pressure head-on. This scene caused Yusang-Tian to frown. Yishang's choice was unexpected. Although the two pressures were not enough to kill a bitter adversity expert, he had lost all his face. It was as if he had become a bargaining chip in the game between the two. However, Yishang did not back down. This Lu Yin really had some tricks up his sleeve. Clang. A bell rang out and the pressure immediately disappeared. The sound of a bell rang out from Boundless. This was the first time Yuanqi had used a bell since arriving in the spiritualized universe. It had been many years since this bell had rung in the spiritualized universe. The war is imminent. The bigger picture is more important. Yuanqi spoke, and these few words caused Yishang to recover. He hurriedly rushed towards the springboards. Yusang-Tian did not stop him. What a familiar voice. Yuanqi Sang-Tian. I hope to see this bell again in the battle in the consciousness universe. Yuanqi spoke up from Boundless. We will. Yuanqi's attack. This reminded everyone in the spiritualized universe that there was a Sang Tian above Boundless. Yuanqi was not an ordinary Sang Tian. He had lived for a long time and he was not inferior to Emperor Wu and the others. He was an antique and his name had shaken the spiritualized universe. His strength was unfathomable and even Yu Sang Tian had to be wary of him. Lu Yin looked at Reboot and saw Yu Sang Tian. Yu Sang Tian's expression was calm as if nothing had happened. The elder had also returned to the battleship. Yi Shangshuan used the springboard to send a message to Torch City. In Torch City, Yi Xia had not received any news from the spiritualized universe for a long time. Ever since Boundless had gone to the spiritualized universe, his connection with it had been severed and he knew nothing about it. Today news had arrived. When Yi Xia saw the news, his expression changed. An expedition to the consciousness universe? This was troublesome. Yu Sang Tian had personally come. If Lu Yin wanted to face Yu Sang Tian directly, he would be in big trouble. The secrets of the tiny spiritual universe were enough for Yu Sang Tian to destroy him. Yi Shang had sent the message to warn him to avoid Yu Sang Tian, but Torch City was only a few inches away. Where could he hide? Unless he went to a springboard. The springboard to the consciousness universe could not be used or else Yu Sang Tian would definitely find him. The other option was to go to the springboard to the Tianyuan universe. Boundless had made a springboard along the way, but if Yu Sang Tian wanted to get rid of Lu Yin, he could follow the springboard to find him. Leaving Torch City would be even more dangerous. Yi Xia looked at the broken foundation. Not long after, Yi Xia found the other two vice city lords of Torch City. Using the excuse that he had broken through and was in seclusion, he handed over all of Torch City's affairs to them. The two vice city lords had already been subdued by Yi Xia, so they naturally obeyed his orders. A few days later, at the border of the spiritualized universe, all of the cultivators boarded the battleships. Under the guidance of rebooting, the gates opened and the battleships boarded the springboard. They instantly disappeared, heading towards Torch City. One battleship after another set off. Boundless was the third, and as the springboard was thrown out, Boundless entered the core and set off for Torch City. It would take them 10 years to reach Torch City. On Boundless, a group of people looked at the familiar dark space. They had not expected it to happen again. They had set off from the Tianyuan universe, entered the core and then arrived at the spiritualized universe. At first they had not thought that they would return to the core again, and they had all come prepared to die. Now that they saw the familiar dark space again, their emotions were indescribable. They had reached Torch City and if he wanted to, he was confident that he could bring Boundless back to the Tianyuan universe. The path home was so close but he still could not take it. Even if they had come prepared to die, Boundless would still return to the Tianyuan universe if they had the chance. This chance was growing larger and larger. Just as the final battleship boarded the core, the border gates closed, leaving behind countless gazes to wait for the results. On Royal God Mountain, a figure landed on the Ru family's ruins. With a wave of his hand, the Ru family's ruins completely disappeared, and the figure headed towards the spiritualized universe. Within the core, 7 giant battleships headed towards Torch City, but none of them could see each other. When one battleship used the springboard to travel far away, the next battleship also used the springboard to travel far away. In the time it took for the previous battleship to travel, the power of the springboard came from the universe itself. In that instant it was difficult for a person to reach. In the past, Lu Yin had thought about how powerful it would be if he could reach the springboard's power one day. With a single slap, even Sang Tian would be slapped to death. It would take 10 years to reach Torch City, and during this time, Lu Yin began to teach the Rushi Sutra. Chapter 3677. Like a true scripture, like a mountain descending, like my true will, like sorrow and joy, like joy and joy, like the unity of heaven and earth, like hearing that you are coming. First, there was the change of the 9 heavens and then there was the sutra. The power that Lu Yin had given Wu Jiang left everyone stunned. The transformation of the 9 heavens was one of Yu Sang Tian's invincible battle techniques, but now, it seemed to be a true scripture. No matter how one looked at it, it didn't sound simple. However, no matter how strong the power was, it still depended on whether it was suitable or not. For example, the change of the 9 heavens was not suitable for Chu Yi. Chu Yi cultivated the Tao of the Heavenly One in order to find a way to survive. On the other hand, the change of the 9 heavens specialized in killing. It was equivalent to fighting head-on. It was very suitable for people like the Celestial Lord Combatant and the Aragami. As for the sutra, one would be moved the moment they heard it. The primogenitor, Patriarch Lu Tianyi, and the others were moved, but Heavenly Lord Victorious pretended not to have heard it. The biggest change was Crazy Dean Xiaochen. After listening to the sutra, he immediately gained enlightenment. This scene stunned everyone else, including Lu Yin. So fast. He had also cultivated the Rushi Sutra, and this was the first time he had heard of it. Just like the crazy principle, he had also gained an epiphany and was stunned by the Rushi Sutra. Now he was experiencing what the Rushi Sutra felt. Seeing the insane principle gain enlightenment, the others silently retreated. Everyone had a cultivation technique that was suitable for them. The crazy headmaster walked the path of the secular world and no one could help him. Even Lu Yin, who had wanted to give Wu Jin's technique to the crazy headmaster, had been unable to help him. The path of the secular world had to be walked by the crazy headmaster himself. Now Lu Yin had actually found a technique that could help him. Thinking about it, it made sense. If the cultivation of the true scripture emphasized intent, emotions, and a way out, what was the most abundant in the mortal world? Love is the most abundant. What is the mortal world? There was nothing more suitable for the crazy principle than a true scripture. Compared to old ancestor Lu Tianyi and the others, the crazy dean had only cultivated for a short period of time. He still had a lot of room for improvement. The primogenitor was very curious as to how far he could go in the path of mortals. Doing business and cultivating, as long as the target was an intelligent life form, they would never be able to escape from the mortal world. Perhaps the crazy principle's achievements would surpass everyone else's. Lu Yin was also looking forward to it. He hoped that the experts of the unbounded continent would have a future. The Tianyuan universe had given birth to many geniuses since ancient times, but only a few of them had survived. If one day those experts could relive their lives, how glorious would that be? In the spiritualized universe, the figure who destroyed the Ru family ruins came to the border and looked at the tightly shut gate. He was filled with unwillingness. One step late, one step too late. It was definitely Mo Shang's doing. It was impossible for him to run. The figure stared at the border for a long time before turning to leave. There were still things that needed to be taken care of in this universe. Aside from Lu Yin, there was also the Eternal. Since Lu Yin had dared to mess with him, Lu Yin still needed to be dealt with. Time passed day by day. The darkness in the square-inch area never changed. The unchanging scenery made people feel numb. Fortunately, they were all cultivators. Let alone 10 years, even if it was 100 years or 1,000 years, they could still endure this numbing darkness. 2 years had passed and the crazy headmaster had cultivated to the first level of the Buddha's Sutra. Heart moved, body immovable. This was not surprising. Primogenitors, Chi, and the others had reached that level long ago. However, they were experts above the primordial realm. Their cultivation and time of cultivation far exceeded the crazy principles, so there was no comparison. Then another 5 years passed. In the 7th year since Wu Jiang entered Mind's sphere, the crazy headmaster had reached the 2nd level. Immovable body and immovable mind. This was surprising, as in all of Wu Jiang, only the primogenitors had reached this level. Neither Qi, Lu Yin, or the others had reached this level. Of course, given enough time they could have reached it, but it would not have happened so quickly. It should be known that even Rugua had only reached the 2nd level. Just because they were in the same realm did not mean that the crazy headmaster was comparable to Rugua. It was only in terms of cultivating the Buddha's Sutra that the crazy headmaster's talent was shocking. The primogenitors had relied on their mental fortitude that had been cultivated for countless years, and Rugua was the same. The crazy headmaster had not even reached the level of a sequence law, but he was on par with them in terms of cultivating the Buddha's Sutra. If Rugua knew about this, he would definitely think of a way to take the crazy headmaster away. In the entire 9 firmaments universe and the spiritualized universe, there was only one person who had reached the 3rd level of the Buddha's Sutra, and that was the former inferior god, Rushi. The difference of one realm was like the difference between heaven and earth. The crazy headmaster opened his eyes. His gaze was as calm as an ancient well. How do you feel? Lu Yin was curious. The primogenitors and the others also looked at the crazy headmaster. This person's path of growth was difficult to replicate. He had been insane for so many years, and now that he had sobered up, he had shocked the world. The crazy headmaster looked at Lu Yin. I'm all right. Lu Yin blinked. How about your power level? How much? The crazy headmaster thought about it. Not much. The Buddha's Sutra emphasizes the will. If not for that, Ru sure would not have lost to Yusang-Tian. Ru Guo relied on his foundation from Ku adversity to forcefully cultivate the Buddha's Sutra, which allowed him to reach Yusang-Tian's level of power. It's unrealistic to think that this technique can increase your power level in a short period of time, the primogenitor said. Lu Yin was disappointed. The crazy headmaster looked at his hands. Although my power level hasn't increased by much, I have a feeling that I will reach the 3rd level in the near future. At that time it will transform. Lu Yin's eyes lit up. Are you sure you can reach the 3rd level? The crazy headmaster nodded. I'm sure. Lu Yin sighed. Do you know who the last person to reach the 3rd level was? The crazy headmaster sighed. It must have been someone shocking. Lu Yin exchanged glances with the primogenitor. He felt like the old man was boasting. No one disturbed the crazy headmaster and he was allowed to cultivate in peace. Lu Yin was looking forward to seeing what would happen when the crazy headmaster reached the 3rd level. Of course, Lu Yin was not looking forward to his power level. The crazy headmaster could not possibly reach Ru Tian's level all of a sudden. That would be too laughable. What Lu Yin was looking forward to was the transformation of his realm, which would guide him in the right direction. The sutra could stabilize his realm. Once he reached the 3rd level, Lu Yin did not know how much stronger he would become, but he would definitely be able to fight Yusang-Tian head-on. He might not be confident now, but he might be able to do so in the future. If the primogenitor could do it, then so could Lu Yin. The primogenitor was looking forward to it as well. The sutra was very suitable for him to cultivate. Once he reached the 3rd level, he also did not know how it would help him. The unknown was worth waiting for. On the other side of Limitless, in front of Yuanqi, a bell flickered. Ever since Yuanqi had been defeated in the Tianyuan universe, this bell had been shattered, and it had only recently recovered a little. It had helped Lu Yin intimidate Yusang-Tian at the border, so Yusang-Tian should not have noticed anything wrong with it. Although it was still far from fully recovered, Yuanqi could at least protect himself. Yuanqi smiled bitterly as he looked at the bell. He was a powerhouse who had crossed the bitter calamity. Even if he had lost his spiritual weapon, he was still not the weakest among those who had crossed the bitter calamity. However, when he came into contact with this bell, he felt like he was powerless to protect himself. It was as if the universe he had come into contact with was fake. Above Limitless, some people cultivated the sutra while others cultivated the transformation of the 9 heavens. Lu Yin pulled Strength Beast and Su Wang over to check on their progress with the transformation of the 9 heavens. It had to be said that these 2 fellows were exceptionally gifted, and their strength had broken through their previous limits with the help of the transformation of the 9 heavens. They were developing in an unknown direction just like Lu Yin. The 2 fellows were exceptionally confident, and they looked at Lu Yin with unconvinced gazes. Lu Yin was unhappy. How could they rely on their own battle techniques? Change? Do you dare to rebel? Thus he took action, punching each of them and pinning them down to the ground. Strength Beast was also unhappy. His body flickered with the transformation of the 9 heavens, and each flicker increased his strength. Bang! There was a loud bang and Strength Beast was sprawled on the ground. His body trembled and a visible bump appeared on his head. Lu Yin looked at Su Wang with a dangerous gaze. Su Wang grinned and wagged his tail. Here's a thumbs up. He did not attack and just stood there like a mascot. Lu Yin snorted and looked at Strength Beast again. Strength Beast was sprawled on the ground and did not even raise his head. Here's a thumbs up. Behave yourself. Lu Yin walked away. Not long after he found Startoad. Startoad's heart was heavy, and it was huddled in a corner with a gloomy expression. It could not cultivate the transformation of the 9 heavens. It did not know why, but it just could not do it. It did not feel anything from the Rushi True Scripture either. It was clearly an extremely powerful technique, so why couldn't it cultivate it? Even those 2 fools could cultivate it. Lu Yin must have taught it a fake and the others must have been taught the real thing. Startoad was not convinced. Lu Yin appeared in front of it. You can't cultivate the Rushi True Scripture? Nonsense. Startoad was unhappy and immediately replied, but then it felt that something was wrong. It looked up and saw Lu Yin's gloomy expression. Startoad's heart skipped a beat and it hurriedly greeted him. Hey Master Lu, I didn't see you. I thought it was some fool. Don't mind. You can't cultivate the Rushi true scripture? Lu Yin asked again. Star Toad grimaced and hugged its lotus leaf. I can't cultivate it. It stole a glance at Lu Yin as if trying to see something. Lu Yin found it strange. You're really useless. It's fine if you can't cultivate the transformation of the 9 heavens, but you can't cultivate the Rushi true scripture either. Star Toad stood there in a daze. Wanted to curse. You must have given me a fake one. You must have. Lu Yin did not know why Star Toad could not cultivate it, but it was better that it could not. This guy was caught by him and it did not help him sincerely. Now that he thought about it, this guy had always complained about him. Lu Yin walked around the boundless border and he even went to check on Jiangqi. She was hiding under her blanket and didn't dare to come out, which made Lu Yin unable to say anything even if he wanted to. He suddenly thought of a guy, Furball Green Immortal. Ever since he left Tianyuan Universe, this guy was placed in Mount Supreme, and it had not appeared for a long time. Lu Yin let out Furball Green Immortal. Furball Green Immortal was confused. It looked around. Master, where is this? To Furball Green Immortal, being locked in Mount Supreme was much better than being outside. At least it did not have to worry about being killed by Lu Yin. It would rather hide in Mount Supreme. Lu Yin looked at Furball Green Immortal. Are you injured? Furball Green Immortal answered carefully. No, I'm not injured. Lu Yin's heart sank. As expected, it did not suffer any karmic backlash. This meant that Green Immortal was not affected by karma. Was this the power of an eternal realm expert? This meant that Song Xiaoshue's Green Immortal might still be alive. He wondered how the Tianyuan universe was doing. Fan Tuan visits the book. Lu Yin was not interested in talking to Furball Green Immortal, so he put it away. He did not notice that before putting it away, Furball Green Immortal looked in a certain direction. This action was not clear and it looked confused. It looked like it was looking around curiously, so it did not attract Lu Yin's attention. There were only 3 more years until he reached Torch City. Chapter 3678. In front of the battleship, Torch City was brightly lit. Compared to the bustling city in the past, it was much quieter now. Due to the arrival of the Spirit Sacrifice Day, many cultivators returned to the spiritualized universe, causing the number of cultivators in Torch City to decrease greatly. Torch City wasn't worried about an attack from the consciousness universe. The cultivators from the consciousness universe could only secretly follow the spiritualized universe battleship. Otherwise, it would take too long to travel from the consciousness universe to Torch City. It wasn't worth it as they didn't have a space-time battleship. Boom. In a corner of Torch City, a house collapsed. A few cultivators fled in all directions pathetically. In the collapsed ruins, a tall figure stood up. He scanned the surroundings with a dignified gaze, but with a hint of drunkenness. Who dares to scold me, Miao Huang? Stand out and see how I'll teach you a lesson. Win people over with virtue. You despicable people have to win people over with virtue. No one answered. No one dared to look at him, afraid that he would target them. This person was Miao Huang. Back then, in order to avoid Star Toad and the others, he had escaped from the spiritualized universe. He said that he was going to the consciousness universe to fight, but in reality he had been tyrannizing Torch City. No one could do anything to him. Even Yi Xia had to respectfully address him as senior. Yi Xia was miserable. As for the situation in the spiritualized universe, Yi Xia couldn't get any information from him. This guy was a scoundrel. Actually, even if the spiritualized universe didn't attack the consciousness universe, Yi Xia had planned to hide. This Miao Huang was getting more and more despicable. Last time he actually went to the city lord's residence to behave atrociously. If not for the fact that she couldn't beat him, she would have pulled out his tendons and skinned him. Miao Huang's arrival made many cultivators in Torch City angry. This guy was too despicable. His character was too vile. Yet he acted as if he could walk the world with virtue. Disgusting. These cultivators didn't dare to say it in front of him. They could only scold him behind his back to vent their anger. Who knew that this guy would actually start eavesdropping? He couldn't even be scolded behind his back. Who was Miao Huang? He was a smart person who believed that the beast spirit molt was the strongest and was the most suitable to lead the beast spirit molt to surpass the human spirit molt. He was virtuous and talented. How could he allow others to scold him behind his back? Impossible. Not in this lifetime. He wouldn't allow it. His reputation couldn't be tarnished. Moreover, it was really tasteless to curse people behind their backs. Such people were not worthy of talking about him. Therefore he was very busy now. After teaching a group of people a lesson, he sneaked to other places to hide, listening to who dared to curse him behind his back. Ever since Miao Huang did this, the atmosphere in Torch City changed. Everyone was very careful, afraid that there would be a pair of eyes staring at them from behind. Some girls didn't even dare to take off their clothes. Even the slightest movement would cause them to scream. This made the people in Torch City nervous. Miao Huang, on the other hand, found this very interesting and became even more motivated. At the same time, he had another hobby: planting flags. These flags represented Miao Huang. Each flag only had one word: virtue. Virtue ruled the world, using virtue to convince others. This was Miao Huang. In a short period of time, Torch City was filled with flags with the word virtue, causing the eyelids of those who saw it to twitch. They had seen shameless people before, but they had never seen such shameless people. On this day, Miao Huang carried the virtue banner to the city lord's manor. He strutted into the city lord's manor and planted it there. Looking at the virtue banner fluttering in the wind, he was very satisfied. Isya, where are you? Come out." An old man ran over with a bitter face. "Greetings, Senior Miao Huang." Miao Huang looked over and grinned. "Isn't this the vice city lord? Where's Isya? Let him come out and see what this Miao Huang planted for him." Banner: as a person you have to convince others with virtue. This Miao Huang noticed that the atmosphere in Torch City is not right. Why do they all like to talk about people behind their backs? The old man was speechless. Wasn't it all because of him? City Lord Isya is in seclusion. Miao Huang raised his brows. Seclusion? A few years ago. Miao Huang was surprised. I haven't seen Isya in a few years? That's right, in these few years this Miao Huang was focused on teaching Torch City and forgot to visit. Right, how many years has it been? The old man thought about it. About 10 years. 10 years, that's enough. He can come out. Let him come out and see this banner. From now on, hang it here and let the people of Torch City see what it means to convince others with virtue. Let them think of this Miao Huang when they see this banner. The old man sighed. There was no need to look. Your deeds would definitely be passed down in history. As long as Torch City existed, it would not be forgotten. The city lord is in seclusion. We can't call him out. Miao Huang was unhappy. Why can't you call him out? Why is he in seclusion? To improve his cultivation? Is that useful? Ishang is crippled. He can forget about being Sangtian in this life. Go call him out. The old man was in a difficult position and did not move. Miao Huang moved closer and stared at the old man. His aura suppressed the void, causing the old man's back to turn cold. He felt like he was going to be killed at any moment. Are you rejecting me? The old man's face turned pale. I dare not. It's just that I can't find the city lord. What do you mean you can't find him? Torch City is only so big. Can he run to the Tianyuan universe? The city lord is in the broken foundation. Miao Huang was stunned. What is he doing there? The old man said, training in seclusion. Although Miao Huang was shameless, he was not stupid. The broken foundation protected the springboard. The springboard was protected because it was afraid of attracting an unknown civilization. The more one understood the universe, the more they respected it. Experts could easily destroy parallel universes, but a parallel universe was just a speck of dust in the universe. The springboard borrowed the power of the universe to reach a height that living beings could not touch. The universe itself was vast and endless. Who said that there were only 3 universes? Miao Huang knew that there were more than 3 universes, but who could say for sure how many universes there were? The springboard's existence was strange. Whether it was naturally formed or man-made, the spiritualized universe did not know. If the springboard was exposed and attracted other universes, who knew what kind of civilization would appear? Anyway, it would not be a good thing. This Isya was smart to hide in the broken foundation. Even if Miao Huang found him there, he could not attack him to prevent accidents. Wait, he was hiding from him. There was no need. Miao Huang suddenly thought of something and stared at the old man. Is there any news from the spiritualized universe? The old man's face was pale and he did not know how to answer. Before Isya went into seclusion, he had specifically told him not to spread the news. Miao Huang grabbed the old man's collar. A terrifying pressure descended, making the old man feel like his whole body was being crushed. The The despair of death made him lose all will to resist. Yes, yes. 10 years ago? Yes. Miao Huang threw the old man away. This bastard Yi Xia was not hiding from him but from the spiritualized universe. If he could hide, there must be someone at Sang Tian's level or even more. Sang Tian would not come. Thinking of this, he wanted to leave, but where to? Right, the broken foundation. If Yi Xia could hide in the broken foundation, so could he. No matter what. However, as a precaution, he was about to move. In the distance, a battleship suddenly descended. It could be seen from Torch City, and Torch City could also be seen from the battleship. Miao Huang opened his mouth and rushed to the broken foundation. This was the rebooting of the spiritualized universe battleship as the lead ship. Sang Tian was definitely here. Bad luck. Good things never came, but bad things did. Sang Tian was on the reboot. The moment he saw Torch City, he also saw Miao Huang. Seeing Miao Huang rushing to the broken foundation, he raised his eyebrows. A vast consciousness descended as if there was an additional sky, blocking Miao Huang. Miao Huang attacked with his claw, trying to tear the consciousness sky apart. When the consciousness sky was torn apart, a white imperial robe appeared. On it was the word, Imperial, that could burn the sky and destroy the earth. It covered Torch City and pressed down. Miao Huang knew it was too late. Even if he could break the imperial robe, Sang Tian was waiting for him. The imperial robe descended and Miao Huang slowly landed. The battleship also stopped. In Torch City, many cultivators saw the battleship appear. Finally, someone was here. They had been tortured by Miao Huang all these years. Finally, a battleship appeared. They could return to the spiritualized universe. Even if they had to kill their way to the consciousness universe, it was better than staying in Torch City. The scene of Miao Huang being suppressed by the imperial robe was not seen by every cultivator. However, any cultivator who saw it knew that it was not only the battleship that had arrived, but also Sang Tian himself. Sang Tian had come personally. Was he going to crush the consciousness universe? Within the city lord residence, the elder rushed to the battleship to welcome Sang Tian. Within Torch City, figure after figure rushed over. They were all at least at the progenitor realm to welcome Sang Tian. Miao Huang's face was bitter. He could not escape. Greetings, Lord Sang Tian. Greetings, Lord Sang Tian. His voice resounded throughout Torch City, shocking all the cultivators in the city. Lord Sang Tian was coming personally? At this time, another battleship arrived, stopping beside Torch City. On this battleship, the ninth spirit walked out, shaking Torch City. And then the third battleship arrived. It was Wu Jiang. Wu Jiang was completely different from the other battleships. It did not belong to the spiritualized universe, because the cultivators in Torch City had not seen it before. Before, Wu Jiang had stunned all the cultivators in Torch City. Other than Yi Xia and Old Tao, no one else knew of Wu Jiang's existence. And now the cultivators in Torch City looked on blankly. They had not seen this battleship before. Miao Huang saw Wu Jiang and was stunned. Why was Wu Jiang here? Had the group from the Tianyuan universe been dealt with by Sang Tian? Next he felt a familiar aura. It was Lu Yin, the expert who had once defeated him. That damned toad was also here. The group from the Tianyuan universe was fine. He knew that he was in trouble. Above Torch City, within the broken base, Yi Xia saw Wu Jiang arrive with a complicated expression. If not for Wu Jiang, he would not have been in such a state. What had Wu Jiang done in the spiritualized universe? How had he come out unscathed? Sang Tian had come and so had Wu Jiang. The two universes had joined forces to conquer the consciousness universe. He did not know if they would be able to completely destroy it. If the consciousness universe was destroyed, then Torch City would lose much of its meaning. It would be reduced to a defensive springboard. Next, battleship after battleship arrived, shocking Torch City. Chapter 3679. The 7 battleships were all spacetime class. At this moment, the cultivators in Torch City knew that something big was about to happen. Since ancient times, it had been rare for all spacetime class battleships in the spiritualized universe to be deployed. There were only a few recorded instances, and each time they swept through the consciousness universe, they had not been able to completely destroy the 13 celestial phenomenon. The cultivators in Torch City never thought that they would see such a day. On the battleships, experts entered Torch City one after another. This made the cultivators of Torch City excited. Many of the cultivators went to look for their elders and then, complained. Forefather, you don't know how despicable Miao Huang is. He forced his disciple to praise him as the strongest in beast form. Senior, please help us. Miao Huang is despicable and shameless, planting flags in our home. Miao Huang eavesdropped on us. We clearly said that Miao Huang was the strongest and he punished us by standing for 100 days. Despicable. To prevent others from speaking ill of him, he eavesdropped and hid in the shadows. Little junior sister, little junior sister. What? What happened to little junior sister? Little junior sister is ashamed and indignant. She insists on marrying me. Miao Huang even made a song dedicated to him. Torch City has to sing it every day. It's disgusting. Ninth Immortal, please help us. Meng Sangtian, please help us. Lord Meng Sangtian, please help us. The people on the battleships were bewildered. They had thought that they would be greeted with praise and worship, as well as anticipation for the revival of the consciousness universe. Why was it all complaints? How despicable was this Miao Huang? Seeing the banners fluttering all over Torch City, they were speechless. They had seen shameless people, but not this shameless. Even the ninth spirit felt that the thought Immortal was better than Miao Huang. This was too shameless. On the boundless border, the star toad stomped its feet and cursed. It begged Lu Yin to capture Miao Huang and teach him a lesson. Lu Yin glanced at the star toad. Miao Huang has really seen a toad like you? Not a toad. The star toad was helpless. Everyone was calling it a toad now. Where was the dignity of Kuai? He couldn't see it at all in the boundless lands. Su Wangtian looked at the virtue banners in the city and felt respect for Miao Huang from the bottom of his heart. It was rare for someone to be so shameless. On the other battleship, many beast-shaped spirit molts had ugly expressions. Most of them were from the 10,000 beast territory, so they didn't have a good impression of Miao Huang. This bastard had brought shame to the beast-shaped spirit molts. Since when did beast-shaped spirit molts convince people with their virtues? The fist was the true dignity of the spirit-molted beast. I ask the Border Lord to capture Miao Huang and clean up the family. A beast-shaped spiritual molt spoke. It was one of the 10,000 beast borders mountain lords. Immediately after, the spirit-molted beast spoke. Even winged butterfly and nine-tailed fox wanted to capture Miao Huang, but they knew that they were no match for him. No matter what, Miao Huang was an existence that could challenge Wu Huang. They looked at the old salamander. Would the old salamander make a move? Previously, in order to make Wu Huang and Lu Sangtian fight, the old salamander worked together with Miao Huang to send the battle invitation to the boundless lands and announce it to the spiritualized universe. No one knew what the relationship between these two fellows was. The old salamander had a headache. Couldn't Miao Huang be more obedient? Why did he stay in Torchfire City? Wasn't it better to go to the consciousness universe? Torchfire City was filled with resentment. The cultivators hated Miao Huang to the core. In the city lord's residence, Miao Huang's face twitched. These shameless people kept calling him Lord Miao Huang. They scolded him, but he corrected them. Now they were bad-mouthing him in front of Yu Sangtian. His heart trembled. Come here. Yu Sangtian's voice sounded. Miao Huang's face was bitter. He traveled through the void and arrived at the edge of Torchfire City. He wasn't far from Yu Sangtian. In the spiritualized universe, he was enemies with the 10,000 beast border and the realm beyond skies. Hence, he had been hiding and didn't dare to show his face. It wasn't that Yu Sangtian couldn't find him, but there was no need to make things difficult for him. Even if he was an 8-star dark spirit, his main enemy was still the 10,000 beast border. Before leaving the spiritualized universe, he specially contacted the realm beyond skies and told Yu Sangtian that he was going to the consciousness universe. Because of this, his name was removed from the dark spirit list. If he faced Yu Sangtian normally, he wouldn't care. However, he was surrounded by enemies now. These shameless people actually dared to complain. Yu Sangtian looked at Miao Huang. How long have you been in Torchfire City? Lord Yu Sangtian, he hasn't left since he came. Someone complained with red eyes. Miao Huang glared at that person. He would remember this and wait. Facing Yu Sangtian's gaze, he smiled. Well, I've been resting. Yes, resting. I was injured by the third head of the Dayu Manor during the battle in the abyss of space. I've been resting until now. Yu Sangtian looked around. Everywhere he looked, the virtue flag had turned to ashes. It's too ugly. Miao Huang fanged. How dare you destroy my virtue flag? Just you wait, I'll kill you when I have the chance. He knew that he wasn't Yu Sang Tian's opponent now. He could only admit defeat. He couldn't even escape. However, he was once an 8-star dark spirit and had fought against the realm beyond skies. He wasn't afraid of anything. No matter how strong Yu Sang Tian was, he wouldn't be convinced. He would wait and see when he has the chance. Get on the battleship and go to the consciousness universe. Yu Sang Tian said. He had nothing to say to someone like Miao Huang. Miao Huang rolled his eyes. Well, I'm a spiritual molt beast. Let's go to the 5th battleship. The 5th battleship was filled with spiritual molts. The 6th battleship was also filled with spiritual molts. Before Yu Sang Tian could speak, the old salamander arrived. Miao Huang is a spiritual molt beast. It's reasonable for him to board the battleship of the Wanshou border. Lord Yu Sang Tian, please agree. Miao Huang glanced at the old salamander. You know what's good for you. Otherwise you'll tell everyone about us working together. Wait, where's Wu Huang? Miao Huang looked at the 5th battleship. Why wasn't Wu Huang here? Wu Huang appeared and the old salamander spoke on behalf of the Wanshou border. Wu Huang couldn't have been killed by the 3rd head, right? Impossible. Old man, where's Wu Huang? Miao Huang stared at the old salamander. The old salamander didn't even look at him. He waited for Yu Sang Tian to answer. Yu Sang Tian said indifferently, he's here. Miao Huang wasn't in the mood to care. He appeared in front of the old salamander and stared at him. Where's Wu Huang? Where's that idiot? The old salamander looked at Miao Huang helplessly. He's dead. Miao Huang's eyes narrowed. What did you say? He wasn't the only one who heard it. The cultivators in Torch City heard it too. Everyone was in an uproar. Isya heard it too. He couldn't believe it. How could it be? Wu Huang was dead? That was Wu Huang. He was a top expert who fought 3 Sang Tian alone. If he used the Sealing Sky sequence, his strength would be unimaginable. How could he be dead? How did he die? You must be joking, old man. Miao Huang couldn't believe it. He knew Wu Huang's strength the best. With the help of the Sealing Sky sequence, Wu Huang's strength was unbeatable. Even so, he only dared to talk nonsense. He didn't dare to fight Wu Huang. The old salamander and Miao Huang stared at each other. Wu Huang was killed by me. Miao Huang stared at the old salamander. He took a few steps back and stared at him. You can kill Wu Huang? What a joke. The old salamander didn't plan to explain. If Yu Sang Tian didn't let him go, he had no choice. He turned and left. Don't go. Explain yourself. Miao Huang pressed on the old salamander's shoulder, trying to drag him back. The old salamander's eyes darkened. He raised his left hand and grabbed Miao Huang's right hand. He slowly raised it. The two forces clashed. The ground cracked and Torch City shook. Miao Huang's face darkened. He pressed his hand down but couldn't. He couldn't believe it. When did this old man become so strong? On the 5th battleship, the beast-shaped spiritual molts had complicated expressions. Although they didn't want to accept the old salamander as the leader of the Wanshou border because of Wu Huang's death, the old salamander's strength was not fake. He had fought with Wu Huang and Lu Sang Tian. When the 5-clawed heavenly centipede true body appeared, Wu Huang couldn't suppress him without the help of the Sealing Sky sequence. The old salamander hid his strength too well. Without the help of the Sealing Sky sequence and the transformation of 9 skies, Wu Huang might not be able to defeat him. This was also the reason why the old salamander could become the leader of the Wanshou border. He was really strong. Now the Sealing Sky sequence was in his hands. Except for the lack of the transformation of 9 skies, he was equivalent to Wu Huang. With a whoosh, Miao Huang's hand was pushed away by the old salamander. He took a few steps back and was shocked. Old man, you? The old salamander didn't even turn his head. Be honest. Don't embarrass the beast-shaped spiritual molts. I'm not Wu Huang. You can escape from Wu Huang, but you can't escape from me. Then he returned to the 5th battleship. Miao Huang's face was gloomy. He couldn't believe what had just happened. He had been suppressed by the old salamander. In the past, he didn't care about this old man. He was just a piece of trash who was enjoying his retirement in the Wanshou border. Now he knew that he had been wrong. This old man had hidden too deeply. Seeing the old salamander return to the 5th battleship, Miao Huang couldn't take it lying down. He shouted, "Old man, you were the one who helped me deliver the letter of challenge. Did you forget? You and I worked together to give Wu Huang a big gift." No one paid attention to him. This matter was already clear. On the fifth battleship, Yi Dai and the others looked at each other. Sometimes the truth wasn't important. Wu Huang was at a loss. Why was there no reaction at all? He subconsciously looked at Wu Huang. Lu Yin looked at him with a faint smile. Beside him, the star toad was hurriedly saying something. Seeing the toad, Wu Huang's eyes flashed. Yu Sangtian's voice sounded, "Get on the ship." Wu Huang's heart was heavy. He seemed to have missed out on a lot. At this time, Lu Yin's voice sounded, "Let Wu Huang go to Wu Huang." When Wu Huang heard this, he immediately boarded the ship. He would rather stay with Yu Sangtian than go to Wu Huang. Even though he didn't know what had happened in the spiritualized universe, he didn't believe that Wu Huang had nothing to do with the old turtle killing Wu Huang. These people didn't react to his words, which meant that they knew the truth. This meant that the letter of challenge had been sent out, and with Wu Huang's temper, it was impossible for him to refuse. Wu Huang could roughly guess what had happened, and he didn't dare to come into contact with Lu Yin. Yu Sangtian looked at Lu Yin. "No need. Just stay here." Lu Yin smiled. "Then I'll board as well. Is that okay?" "Sure." Yu Sangtian didn't know why Lu Yin was targeting Wu Huang, but he wanted to know the reason. Chapter 3680. The star toad jumped onto Lu Yin's shoulder and urged him to look for Wu Huang. The 7 arcs would need to be repaired in Torch City for a few days to replenish their resources, so he wasn't in a hurry to restart them. The next day, Yu Sangtian arrived at the base of the severed section. "If I want to make a move, this place can't guarantee your safety. Guarding against the unknown doesn't mean that we can't touch the unknown." On the other side, Yixia was nervous. Beads of sweat dripped from his forehead. "This lowly one is not worthy of Lord Yu Sangtian taking action. This lowly one has long forgotten what he should not know." Yu Sangtian said indifferently, "The Sky Devourer silk umbrella is on the battleship. I can give it to you." Yixia's eyes widened. He did not understand what Yu Sangtian was trying to do. The Yi family will have a seat in Sangtian's seat, but now Yi Shang has followed Wu Jiang. Wu Jiang represents the Tianyuan universe. You know very well that I do not wish for such a thing to happen. The Tianyuan universe is destined not to last long. As for Little Spirit Cosmos, Yixia's expression changed. This was a secret that Lu Yin had revealed to him in order to ensure that Torch City remained neutral between the Heaven's Origin universe and the spiritualized universe. Yixia did not want this information, but Lu Yin had received it, which was why he was afraid that Yu Sangtian would act against him. There's no value in saying it out loud. With that, Yu Sangtian left as Lu Yin's login had been reactivated. Yixia sat quietly where he was. Sangtian's position, Sky Devourer Luo Fan. Could he really achieve Sangtian's position? Yu Sangtian's intentions were simple. He wanted Yi Shang to betray Wu Jiang. His eyes flashed. As long as Yu Sangtian did not care about the small spirit cosmos, he would naturally side with Yu Sangtian. These people from the Tianyuan cosmos were simply sending themselves to their deaths. How could they fight against the entire spiritualized universe? No matter what Wu Jiang did in the spiritualized universe, no matter how powerful he was, he could not surpass Yu Sangtian. Otherwise, he would not have followed Yu Sangtian to the consciousness universe. As for why his grandfather followed Wu Jiang, he knew that it was because Wu Jiang had enough strength. However, in his opinion, this strength was still not enough to shake Yu Sangtian. She had to think of a way to talk to her grandfather and avoid Wu Jiang. Yixia looked at Wu Jiang, his gaze cold. His current predicament was all because of Lu Yin. This person had harmed him, but he had also given him an opportunity. On the other side, Lu Yin brought the Star Toad up to restart. Reboot was huge, even bigger than Boundless. After all, it used up a lot of resources from the spiritualized universe and was built with the strength of a domain. Carried many cultivators, some strong and some weak. When Lu Yin boarded the reboot, countless eyes looked over, not knowing what he was going to do. Lu Yin went to look for Wu Huang. Wu Huang wanted to dodge, but how could he avoid Lu Yin? If you keep dodging, even Yu Sangtian won't be able to stop me. Wu Huang was even more sure of his guess. Wu Huang's death must have something to do with this guy. Otherwise, how could this guy have the guts to say something like this? Moreover, after spending a day in the reboot, he had a rough idea of what had happened. No one knew how Emperor Wu Huang died. They only knew that he died at the hands of the old salamander. However, everyone in the spiritualized universe knew about the battle at Fu Huyuan. That battle had shaken the spiritualized universe. Miao Wu Huang had used the Sealed Sky Foundation and the Nine Skies Change, but he had still been defeated. Miao Wu Huang was stunned. He had expected that Sovereign Wu Huang had some hidden power, but he did not expect it to be the change of the Nine Heavens. If he had encountered Sovereign Wu Huang who had mastered the change of the Nine Heavens, he would have had no chance of escaping. Even so, Sovereign Wu Huang had still been defeated by this third master. This third master had also mastered the change of the Nine Heavens, and he was on the same level as Yusang Tian. This fact made Miao Wu Huang give up on any thoughts of escaping. There was no way he could escape. He grinned, revealing what he thought was a brilliant smile. "Isn't this third master and brother Toad? Why are you here? Come, come, come. Welcome, please come in." Lu Yin's expression was calm as he looked at Miao Wu Huang's wide grin. He slowly asked, "Did you write that challenge letter?" Miao Wu Huang blinked, confused. "Challenge letter? What challenge letter?" Lu Yin's lips curled up as he slowly approached Miao Wu Huang. His eyes were cold as he moved his fingers, causing the void to ripple and distort. It did not seem powerful, but this scene was terrifying to Miao Wu Huang. This guy was going to make a move. He was going to make a move. Miao Wu Huang subconsciously retreated and smiled. "What is it, third master? Is there a misunderstanding? Tell me and we can resolve it." "Where's Yusang? Why didn't this bastard show up?" Lu Yin kept approaching Miao Wu Huang, not saying a word. The ripples grew bigger and bigger. He raised his hand and pointed at Miao Wu Huang. "One sword." Miao Wu Huang was on guard. "Wu Huang lost to one sword of mine. That sword is called Azure's #1 sword. Do you want to try it?" "Who would want to try it?" Miao Wu Huang cursed inwardly, but he did not show it on his face. He tried his best to smile. "Third master is invincible. Wu Huang is definitely not your match." "What's that called?" "Azure's #1 sword? Good name, really good name." "Did you write the challenge letter?" "No." "You dare to trick me?" "No." Miao Wu Huang hurriedly explained, "That bastard old salamander wrote it in my name. He came up with the idea. Third master, if you don't believe me you can ask him." Lu Yin's eyes narrowed and the star toad on his shoulder grew anxious. This matter had already been investigated, so what was there to ask? Just as it was about to speak, Yusang Tian appeared between Lu Yin and Miao Wu Huang, blocking the toad's line of sight. Miao Wu Huang heaved a sigh of relief when Yusang Tian appeared. He was afraid that Lu Yin's transformation of the Nine Heavens would strike him, and he would definitely die. Lu Yin looked at Yusang Tian. "We can't just let the matter of the myriad beasts border go." Yusang Tian was solemn. "We'll talk about it after the battle in the consciousness universe. I guarantee that he won't be able to escape." Lu Yin looked deeply at Yusang Tian and did not say anything else. Miao Wu Huang's eyes darted around. He definitely had to escape. He could not return to the spiritualized universe, and the consciousness universe was not safe either. Right, the Tianyuan universe. "Big Lizard, do you still remember this star toad?" The toad finally spoke up. Miao Wu Huang did not dare to offend anyone right now, so he smiled. "Of course I do. What is it, brother toad?" "You're the toad, I'm the star toad." "All right, brother star toad, what is it?" The toad stared at Miao Wu Huang. "You've seen a star toad like me, right?" Miao Wu Huang shook his head. "No, I've only seen one of you." The toad's skin changed. This bastard, what did he mean by, "only one of you"? "Don't lie to me. You didn't tell me about the letter, and if you lie to me again, you won't have a good ending," the toad threatened. Miao Wu Huang looked innocent. "Of course I wouldn't lie to you. If I did, I'd be a little toad." Lu Yin turned and left. The toad wanted to ask more, but Lu Yin disappeared as well. Yusang Tian looked at Miao Wu Huang from where he stood. Miao Wu Huang smiled and turned to leave as well. Lu Yin returned to Wu Jiang, Xing Tian on his shoulder. The toad was furious. "That damn lizard, he was cursing me. Bastard, shameless, shameless." Lu Yin casually slapped the toad away and looked at the rebooted toad who was jumping up and down. The fact that the toad cared so much proved that it had its own kind, but when Lu Yin had asked it before, its memories were fuzzy. It had only thought of the great-grandmother in the Mirage domain. Lu Yin didn't care too much about this as there were too many species in the universe. He had looked for Miao Huang to give him a warning, as the letter had been issued in his name. This matter wouldn't be resolved so easily. Ever since Miao Huang had been taken to the rebooted zone and the virtue flag had been destroyed, the people of Torch City had finally relaxed. They had all been cursing Miao Huang to die in the consciousness universe and never return, especially those who had complained. Xia didn't walk out of the broken base. The two vice city lords had begged him to come out, as even Yu Sangtian had come, but there had been no results. Old Tao took a good look around Torch City, as this place had carried his youth. Half a month later, the replenishment of resources was completed, and the warship moved to the north gate of Torch City. It then used the springboard to head towards the consciousness universe. Torch City disappeared in an instant, and endless darkness entered Lu Yin's vision. Wu Jiang entered the core area once more, and the next step was the consciousness universe. Ever since the battle at Immemorial City, Lu Yin had heard about the three universes from the ancestor. It had been a long time and now he was finally going to the consciousness universe. The ancestor found Lu Yin. Master Lu, please save the consciousness universe. Lu Yin looked at the ancestor. Ever since the day of the sacrificial spirit, I thought that you would come looking for me, but you never did. The various Sangtians in the intelligence void domain, including Yu Sangtian, have the goal of rebooting the consciousness universe, and they have pulled Wu Jiang along. What reason do you have to object? The ancestor represented the consciousness universe, and he had gone to the Tianyuan universe to help the consciousness universe fight against the spiritualized universe. Lu Yin's question was straight to the heart. The spiritualized universe had already promised to rebooting the consciousness universe, not the Tianyuan universe. Under such circumstances, what reason did the ancestor have to convince Lu Yin to join forces with the consciousness universe against the spiritualized universe? The more one understood the spiritualized universe, the more one understood how powerful it was. Wu Jiang might have been doing well in the spiritualized universe, but Lu Yin had only become a Sangtian because Wu Jiang hadn't been surrounded. Once the spiritualized universe decided to surround and kill Wu Jiang would have no chance of surviving. Since you're looking for me now, can I assume that you've thought of a reason to convince me? Lu Yin asked. The ancestor lowered his head and asked, Master Lu, do you really believe in the spiritualized universe? Lu Yin smiled. Psychological attacks? It doesn't work on me. I've always been the one to convince others. The ancestor looked up and met Lu Yin's gaze. Consciousness life forms only want to survive, and that's their greatest desire. They can do anything to survive, be it joining or betraying others. There's no bottom line to this desire, so many people think that consciousness life forms aren't trustworthy. But Master Lu, have you ever thought that consciousness life forms don't have any other desires besides survival? Compared to humans, consciousness life forms are too simple. If Master Lu is joining forces with the spiritualized universe because we're both humans, I have nothing to say. But if it's because of trust, why would the spiritualized universe let the Tianyuan universe go? Lu Yin waved his hand. You may leave. There was no need to listen. The ancestor couldn't see the ninth firmament universe at his level, and many things didn't belong to the three universes. No one knew which universe would be rebooted, and it might even be the spiritualized universe itself. Chapter 3681. Lu Yin knew that the Earth realm was a trap set by the 13 celestials for Yu Sangtian. This was the most important thing. If the consciousness universe could defeat Yu Sangtian in this battle, the situation would change. He wanted to see the future, but unfortunately the river of time was not there and it could not build a bridge to the future. Battle power and cultivation were two different concepts. Fate could plot against Maiden through the river of time, but Lu Yin could not do that. All he could do was take things one step at a time. When an opponent reached a certain level of strength, any strategy would be a joke. Unless the consciousness universe could transform him. Traveling in the dark was boring, but the cultivation of the Truth Sutra made the journey less boring. For the top cultivators of the boundless universe, a mere 10 years could not transform their strength, but the 9 heavens transformation and the Truth Sutra could transform some people. Lu Yin felt that the crazy director's aura was becoming more and more restrained. He was clearly sitting there, but sometimes he almost missed the fact that his aura was one with the environment. When a person practiced cultivation, they could blend in with the environment. They didn't need to be very strong, but it depended on the environment. There were peerless cultivators everywhere in the boundless territory. It wasn't easy to disappear from their eyes. All along, the crazy director's path of the red dust had made everyone look forward to it. Regardless of whether or not his battle power would transform, that path of the red dust had forcefully pushed Bao Qi and the desolate god to the brink of disaster. Perhaps one day, others would also need this help. The closer they got to the consciousness universe, the more curious they became about this unfamiliar universe. Almost all of the spiritualized cultivators had been to the boundless universe before. The situation of the consciousness universe might be different from what you think. Let me ask, is the Tianyuan universe similar to our spiritualized universe? Tianya asked. The Great Genetic Age. Su Wangtian said, more or less. They are both universes, but because the Tianyuan universe does not have a unified cultivation model, there is no absolute main spacetime. Whichever parallel spacetime is the strongest is followed. Now, it listens to the primordial space, which used to be called the main space. Other than that, there is not much difference. Starry skies, celestial bodies, stars, and so on. Tianya nodded. Then my guess is correct. The consciousness universe is indeed special, even though I have not been to other universes before. After a pause, he continued, the consciousness universe also has stars, but they are alive. Everyone was surprised. Alive? By the side, Diawu rolled her eyes. Don't spout nonsense, it's just an endless loop. What's going on? Lu Tianyi was curious. Diawu explained, the consciousness universe has a type of celestial body called a broken world. The regions covered by this celestial body will constantly have certain scenes, such as the growth of creatures, the birth of planets, the killing of species, survival, and so on. This type of celestial body is spread throughout the consciousness universe, and every planet in the consciousness universe has a broken world. Some are big, some are small, so they seem to be alive. Until now, we still don't understand these scenes. Are they born out of thin air or are they recreated from the past? In our spiritualized universe, we have some guesses. These scenes might have been rebooted by the consciousness universe before, and the scenes from the previous consciousness universe have continued to this day, but that's just a guess. Some people speculate that it's the Astral Sea Mirage. Celestial Sea Mirage Tower? Muju was surprised. Diawu nodded, her expression solemn. The universe is vast and boundless. Even an immortal expert would not be able to touch the end of a square inch. Apart from the 3 universes that we know of, are there any other universes? Of course there are, and they might not be few, but they are too far away for us to come into contact with. Because the consciousness universe has countless sentient life forms, these life forms are essentially sentient, and the consciousness universe itself has the power of sentience. Perhaps this power resonates with the other universes, reflecting the scenes that have appeared in other universes here in the form of sentience. This is the Astral Sea Mirage Tower. The Star Toad mumbled, it has the same logic as the Mirage. More or less, Diawu said. Luo Shan asked, is this broken world dangerous? World's Edge's expression was solemn. This is actually the main point we're talking about today. The broken world is very dangerous, extremely dangerous. Once you see it, don't go near it. Countless scenes have appeared in the broken world, and many of them don't even have any living creatures. Although we haven't seen many of the creatures in these scenes before, they aren't dangerous and are very ordinary. A space-exploring cultivator can easily pass through them. Most of the broken worlds in the consciousness universe are like this. However, this doesn't represent all of them. Some of the creatures in these broken worlds are terrifyingly strong, and there are even scenes of past battles. Once an outsider enters and is affected, it'll be the same as being affected by a battle in the real world. Whether or not you can come out depends on the intensity of the battle. Let me put it this way. World's Edge's gaze swept across the crowd and he said in a low voice, in the spiritualized universe, more than 100 spirit realm cultivators have died in the broken worlds, and more than 10 spirit primes and bitter adversity cultivators have died. Even Mulberry Sky died in the consciousness universe, and one of the reasons for that was the broken worlds. Luo Shan was solemn. Was it that dangerous? In the distance he had his hands behind his back. He understood the consciousness universe very well, more than anyone else. After all, he had fused with Wu Wei and Huamani's bodies. The broken worlds were the steel worlds that he had encountered in the primordial space. The steel worlds would endlessly repeat past scenes and everything inside was gray. Gray people, gray creatures, gray battle shockwaves, and so on. The first time he had encountered the steel worlds was during the battle for the Star Tower. At that time, if he hadn't reversed his steps, he might not have been able to walk out. The second time was at the frigid Immortal Sex ruins in the primordial space, which was also where the Day-Night clan was located. The progenitor had attacked the Steel Worlds there, and it had severely injured him at that time. At that time he had wondered why the Steel Worlds existed. As his cultivation increased, the possibilities of his guesses decreased, and many of the possibilities had been denied. In the end, he didn't bother about this matter anymore. Even if a person's cultivation could destroy the universe, it might not be able to explain the origin of a grain of sand. Luin stopped thinking about the Steel Worlds. However, after understanding the consciousness universe, he was shocked to discover that it was actually a Steel Worlds that had been magnified countless times. The scenes inside the broken worlds were also gray, and once they were disturbed, the creatures inside would attack and destroy all foreign creatures. The shockwaves of ancient battles could also be seen there. Now he had to think about the Steel Worlds. Similar scenes had appeared in the Steel Worlds, the frigid Immortal Sex ruins and the consciousness universe. There had to be a connection. This scar came from the broken worlds. This is the broken worlds. World Edge rolled up his clothes and showed everyone the scar on his shoulder. Although this scar can be healed, I'll keep it to remind myself that this injury came from the broken worlds and that I shouldn't underestimate them. Broken worlds make people look down on them unknowingly because most of the broken worlds, or rather 99% of the broken worlds, are harmless. Among the remaining 10% of the broken worlds, most of them don't pose much of a threat to cultivators. This is why cultivators who go on expeditions to the universe of consciousness will look down on the broken worlds. Some people have been fighting in the universe of consciousness for thousands of years or even longer and have never encountered any danger in the broken worlds. Those people like to traverse the broken worlds because it is extremely dangerous. Therefore, cultivators who go from the spiritualized universe to the consciousness universe for the first time are warned not to underestimate the broken worlds. However, the number of people who die in the broken worlds every year is still high. Therefore, cultivators from the spiritualized universe fight in small groups in the consciousness universe? Heavenly Lord Victorious Battle asked. World Edge nodded. That's one of the reasons. However, the main reason is the consciousness lifeforms. The range of their consciousness attacks is too wide. Once they can't block it, it doesn't matter how many people there are. If they can block it, one is enough. Lu Tianyi asked, does the broken worlds affect the consciousness lifeforms? Diawu said, yes, but it doesn't affect them much. It's just like when we fight against the consciousness lifeforms. If we can't affect their consciousness, we won't be able to harm them. Unless the consciousness lifeforms take the initiative to transform into their biological form, then it's no different from us entering the broken worlds. In the broken worlds, the consciousness lifeforms have an advantage over us. Heavenly Lord Victorious Battle was curious. Where's the most dangerous broken world you've experienced? World Edge and Diawu looked at each other. It's not fixed. This is also a unique characteristic of the broken worlds. They can float around. Today they might be here, tomorrow they might be there. We once entered a broken world by accident. At that time, we were also trying to avoid the pursuit of a 13 heavenly phenomenon realm cultivator. A group of people rushed into that broken world and in the end only the two of us managed to escape. The scene repeated in that broken world was a ritual. After we entered the broken world, we subconsciously remained silent, but there were always some people who didn't care and looked down on the broken world. Because of the 13 heavenly phenomenon realm cultivators chasing after us, those people were terrified, which alarmed the life forms in the broken world. We've never seen those life forms before, but their actions should have been a ritual. All of us were sacrificed, and the strongest life form definitely had a power level comparable to Sang Tian's. It used a bamboo blade to slaughter all of us cultivators and stab me in the shoulder. We were lucky enough to escape. Now that I think about it, the 13 heavenly phenomenon realm cultivators who were chasing after us definitely knew how terrifying that broken world was and didn't chase after us. Otherwise, in many situations, the consciousness life forms would have chased after the broken world. This is also one of the ways to determine whether a broken world is dangerous or not. It depends on whether or not the consciousness universe can enter. Because the consciousness life forms have lived for a long time, and the broken world belongs to the consciousness universe, their understanding of the broken world far surpasses ours. Lu Yin listened quietly and then released Wu Wei, which was 5 meters away from him. He wanted to search for the broken world from Wu Wei's memories. Wu Wei's memories were boundless. And Lu Yin had only seen the tip of the iceberg when he had viewed Wu Wei's memories twice. Now he was specifically searching for memories related to the broken world. Within Wu Wei's memories, there were many broken worlds in the consciousness universe that could be found throughout the universe. These broken worlds were just as Dancing Butterfly World Edge had said, they were not fixed and could float around. Consciousness life forms could not determine whether a broken world was dangerous or not, but they could exchange information with each other. Chapter 3682. Some broken worlds could be identified from the outside. If a sentient life form saw them and came out alive, they would mark the broken world to confirm the danger level. The information about these broken worlds was kept in the Earth of Mind realm and recorded in a book, Forbidden. That book only had one word, forbidden. It was called the Book of Forbidden. The Book of Forbidden recorded the dangerous broken worlds that the sentient life forms had confirmed over countless years. There were more than 100 of them. Most of these broken worlds couldn't be determined as the danger level couldn't be determined because no one from the consciousness universe was willing to test them. Many of the broken worlds were recorded by hunting down cultivators from the spiritualized universe and using those cultivators as a reference to determine the danger level. Furthermore, the broken worlds would float away and weren't easy to find. However, some broken worlds were still seen clearly. The broken world mentioned by Dancing Butterfly Horizon happened to be one of the broken worlds that were seen clearly. There was a creature in that broken world that held a bamboo blade and had the strength to threaten the 13 heavenly phenomenon realm. It was one of the most dangerous broken worlds and was called the Bamboo Blade Broken World. In Wu Wei's memories, there were more than 5 broken worlds in the Book of Forbidden that were comparable to the Bamboo Blade Broken World. There were also some broken worlds that were more dangerous than the Bamboo Blade Broken World. However, other than the 13 heavenly phenomenon realm, no life form dared to test them. Therefore no one knew how dangerous they were. Dancing Butterfly Horizon was already very lucky to come out of the Bamboo Blade Broken World. That creature with the bamboo blade made Wu Wei apprehensive. Of course, that was a long time ago. Back then, Wu Wei had just become a 13 heavenly phenomenon realm cultivator and didn't have his current strength. He hadn't learned the Sword of Heaven yet. However, even the current Wu Wei wouldn't want to provoke the Bamboo Blade Broken World. There was no need. The spiritualized universe should also know about the dangers of the broken worlds. However, human cultivators didn't have a high chance of survival after entering the dangerous broken worlds. Moreover, after a batch of cultivators went there, they would return after a period of time. Many people would never go there a second time. As a result, they didn't create anything like a Book of Forbidden. They could only warn people not to enter the broken worlds. However, this warning was pale and powerless in the face of a threat to the sentient life forms. All sentient life forms had an unspoken rule that came from their instincts. Under the premise that they could eliminate the enemies from the spiritualized universe, they would try their best to use them to test the dangers of the broken worlds. Compared to the spiritualized universe cultivators who were numb and ignorant of the broken worlds, they wouldn't be willing to test any broken world unless it was truly confirmed that the broken world wasn't a threat. The consciousness universe was the home of the sentient beings. They were more willing to recognize the broken worlds and make use of them. Lu Yin finally understood why the spiritualized universe was so much more powerful than the consciousness universe, but it was still difficult to completely deal with the consciousness life forms. The broken world was a major obstacle, and there was also the direction of the ninth heaven universe behind it. Whether or not the consciousness life forms could be restarted was far from something the spiritualized universe could decide. Even Master Grass, who was in the eternal realm, could not decide. And after realizing this, the Tianyuan universe was in even greater danger. This was because the Tianyuan universe did not have a destroyed world. In the distance, everyone was very curious about the broken world. They kept asking the spiritualized universe's cultivators about it. Not only Dancing Butterfly Skyline but Old Tao was also one of the people being asked. Yuanqi, Zhang Yan, and the others, especially Ancestor Shi, Dancing Butterfly Skyline, also wanted to ask her some things. Lu Yin clapped his hands to attract everyone's attention. Ancestor, share all the information you know about the broken world. Old Tao and the rest, tell us everything you know to prevent Wu Jiang from being in danger. Old Tao hurriedly expressed his stance. Don't worry, Master. This lowly one will definitely tell you everything from the first time I entered the consciousness universe to the last time I left. I'll let everyone experience it personally, right, Ancestor? Ancestor, she fell silent. Starting from Old Tao, Everyone began to talk about everything they knew about the consciousness universe. Old Tao had experienced a lot in the consciousness universe, so he spoke in exultation and was as detailed as possible. At first, everyone was interested, but they gradually realized that this fellow was just trying to make his presence known. He wanted to show off in front of Lu Yin, which was why he was chased away. The ancestor, she was the one who looked forward to it the most. Only then would her words be valuable. Dancing Butterfly Skyline was also very curious. A consciousness life form was equivalent to an astral phenomenon which was not weak. She could be considered a second-grade consciousness life form, so what would her knowledge of the consciousness universe be like? Since ancient times, many consciousness life forms had surrendered to the spiritualized universe, but they had never had the chance to interact with them. Under everyone's gazes, especially Lu Yin's ancestor, she muttered to herself for a moment before slowly explaining what she knew about the consciousness universe. Lu Yin's gaze was calm as he listened. As for the destroyed worlds, all consciousness life forms revere them. They have existed for much longer than us, and all consciousness life forms believe that the destroyed worlds form the consciousness universe. If we lose the destroyed worlds, the consciousness universe will be reduced to the same level as the spiritualized universe. That's right, you didn't hear wrong. To the consciousness life forms, a universe without a destroyed world is ordinary, even if the spiritualized universe is stronger than the consciousness universe. The consciousness universe's 13 celestial phenomena are known as the realm of Earth. In that realm there is a book called the Forbidden Book. This book records the consciousness life form's knowledge of the destroyed worlds, including some of the destroyed worlds. Among them, the Book of Forbidden was something that Dancing Butterfly Skyline and the others did not know about. Yunqi was also astonished as he did not know about it either. Lu Yin frowned. The spiritualized universe had been fighting in the consciousness universe for so many years, but they did not know about the Book of Forbidden. Many life forms in the consciousness universe had surrendered to the spiritualized universe, but there were no life forms that could exchange information for equivalent value. Impossible. Either that or only those who had reached the astral phenomenon realm had the qualifications to know about the Book of Forbidden, and life forms at that level did not necessarily need to exchange the Book of Forbidden for value, as they themselves were very valuable. Or, the Book of Forbidden had existed for a shorter period of time than Yuanqi and the others. That was not impossible. Yuanqi was an ancient life form that had existed since the Tianyuan era. Although the spiritualized universe had a longer history than the Tianyuan universe, it was not that exaggerated and had only developed for a few more eras. The consciousness universe's history might not have surpassed the spiritualized universe's. When Yuanqi was in the spiritualized universe, the Book of Forbidden might not have been formed yet. Then the question was, how did Ancestor she know about it? She had gone to the Tianyuan universe at around the same time as Yuanqi. Based on what you know, how many broken worlds are recorded in the Tome of Taboo? Lu Yin interrupted the Ancestor. Ancestor, she replied, more than 10. Lu Yin's eyes flashed. More than 10? That meant that the Book of Forbidden had only just begun when Ancestor she knew about it, so it was understandable that Yuanqi did not know about it. Ancestor she had gone to the Tianyuan universe at around the same time as Yuanqi, and the Book of Forbidden was a consciousness life form, so she naturally knew about it. Lu Yin had asked Ancestor she to speak because he wanted to see if she would talk about the Book of Forbidden. If she didn't, it might be because she didn't know or because she wanted to hide it. There was no pressure at all because it was impossible for her to know that Lu Yin knew about the Book of Forbidden. If she spoke about it, would it be a show of sincerity? Ancestor she was able to go from the consciousness universe to the spiritualized universe and from there to the Tianyuan universe. She was different from normal consciousness life forms. The instinct of consciousness life forms was to survive, but Bai Wuxian had feelings for him because of Yen. Consciousness life forms could change. They might not be pure life forms. Lu Yin turned around and left. Ancestor she took a look and continued. Yishang, do you know about the Book of Forbidden? Lu Yin asked. Yishang stood behind him. Yishang didn't talk to Yixia in Torch City as it was too sensitive. He was afraid that Yu Sangtian would slap Yixia to death. Fear of the unknown was just fear. In the past they had used a springboard to conquer the Tianyuan universe. Yishang said, I know, a consciousness life form recorded a book about a dangerous destroyed world, Earth realm, but I have never seen it before. You didn't find out about the book from the consciousness life form? I can't do it. If I could, I wouldn't have to wait until Yi Meng betrayed me before I found the Earth realm. Lu Yin thought about it and agreed. He knew why he couldn't do it. It was because of Old Head. Old Chief was the leader of the 13 celestial phenomenon in the consciousness universe, and was also the oldest consciousness life form. He had planted the locking autumn spell in every powerful consciousness life form, locking their consciousness so that the consciousness life form would not be able to speak of certain things, and outsiders would not be able to investigate these memories. Lu Yin had sensed locking autumn when he entered Huamani's body, but it couldn't stop him. As long as Huamani had these memories, Lu Yin would be able to see them. Thus he had seen Yi Tiankei's situation through Huamani. It was impossible for Yu Sang Tian to understand Yi Tiankei through Huamani, as even Huamani couldn't say anything. And because Wu Wei had surrendered too early, he hadn't been locking autumn. Huamani had once guessed that Yu Sang Tian's main goal in attacking the Yi Earth realm was Yi Tian Quebec. He guessed that Wu Wei had told Yu Sang Tian about Yi Tian Quebec. In reality, Wu Wei hadn't told Yu Sang Tian about this, and Yu Sang Tian hadn't asked. No one had asked Yu Sang Tian whether he knew about Yi Tian Quebec. To outsiders, everyone believed that Yu Sang Tian wanted to attack the Yi Earth realm and destroy the 13 celestial phenomenon so that he could restart the consciousness universe and step into eternal life. No one knew if that was the truth. From Huamani's memories, Lu Yin purposely read Old Head's memories. This leader of the 13 celestial phenomenon rarely showed himself, and Huamani didn't know how strong he was. Using the Yi Earth realm to plot against Yu Sang Tian was Old Head's plan, and he seemed to be very confident. Wu Wei also had memories of Old Head, but they were also very few. Is there anything similar to a tome in the spiritualized universe? Lu Yin asked. Yishang replied, there are some that have been passed down by word of mouth, but it's just a few broken worlds that are obviously dangerous. However, these broken worlds haven't been seen for a long time, so they might have disappeared. Broken worlds aren't fixed forever. Some of them may look like this at one moment, but the next moment they might change. It's impossible to see through them completely. There must be a batch of broken worlds that have expired in the tome of consciousness life forms. Lu Yin felt that something was strange. Expired? Although it sounded strange, it made sense. Broken worlds could expire as well. Yishang continued, in the past the spiritualized universe also wanted to create something similar to a tome, especially after learning of its existence. However, the cost of creating something like this is too great, and there's no point in just exchanging information. The truly dangerous broken worlds need to be constantly probed, and the broken worlds that can be exchanging information aren't that dangerous. If you want to probe, you'll have to pay with human lives and the lives of experts at that. The price we have to pay to explore a broken world is much higher than the cost of the consciousness life forms, but that's still acceptable. Compared to the losses caused by broken worlds, Yu Sang Tian and Sang Tian have discussed it, and were willing to pay the price of losing a generation of experts to explore a broken world. However, after discovering that broken worlds can change and expire, the price is completely different. There's no need to explore them anymore. Chapter 3683. Many of the forbidden books in the consciousness universe were created at the cost of our lives. To them, this is not a huge price to pay. What we can do is to avoid all the broken worlds. This is the smallest price we can think of. Other than that, there's no other way. Yishang explained a lot, afraid that Lu Yin would not believe him. Lu Yin could guess the reason even without Yishang's explanation. Besides, if the spiritualized universe knew about the forbidden books of the consciousness life forms, then the consciousness life forms would also know about the spiritualized universe. The spiritualized universe did not have anything like that. Even if it did, there was no value in hiding it. In any case, it would not be as valuable as the forbidden books. Every universe had its own advantages and disadvantages. No matter how strong the spiritualized universe was, it would still be at a disadvantage in the consciousness universe. This was also the key reason why the consciousness universe had been able to survive until now. Fortunately, Lu Yin understood the consciousness universe. Even if Limitless did not travel with the spiritualized universe's battleships, as long as they were lucky, there would not be any problems. 10 years passed quickly. When Lu Yin and the others saw the door in the distance, they knew that they had arrived at the consciousness universe. He was curious. Why did every universe have a door? They all seemed to have been built by the spiritualized universe, which reminded him of the ninth spirit's power. Could that door have something to do with it? Yishang heard Lu Yin's doubts and said, I haven't really thought about it. To him, this was common knowledge for spiritualized universes, just like how spirit threads connected the 36 filaments. There was no need to ask the reason. Only an outsider like Lu Yin would find it strange. It was one thing for the spiritualized universe to have a door in their own universe, but the Tianyuan universe and the consciousness universe also had doors. No matter how he looked at it, something did not seem right. The door opened and Limitless rushed to the other side. In an instant, a foreign aura made everyone on Limitless feel refreshed. They had arrived at a third strange universe. They had gone from the Tianyuan universe to the spiritualized universe, and now they had arrived at the consciousness universe. On the other side of the door, there were no buildings related to the spiritualized universe. There were only 2 huge battleships and a group of cultivators. Lu Yin looked into the distance. 1, 2, 3, 8. There were a total of 8 powerful auras. 3 of them were Ku Adversity Realm cultivators while the other 5 were spiritual primes. This was the strongest spiritualized universe in the consciousness universe. At this moment, Lu Yin finally saw the full extent of the spiritualized universe's overall strength. Yusang Tian had been bestowed by the 9 firmaments universe and was in charge of the spiritualized universe. He had reached the peak of the bitter disaster realm. Under him were the 7 great Sangtians and the 3 in front of him. There were no less than 15 experts who had reached the bitter disaster realm. There were also more than 30 spirit primes. These experts covered the gate of magic and the myriad beast territory. Compared to the Tianyuan universe, their numbers were terrifying. This was the true strength of a spiritualized universe. The benefit of the unified training model was that it did not waste resources and could produce experts in batches. Regardless of what the future of the universe was like, the spiritualized universe had indeed weakened the future of the Tianyuan universe, controlling its development. Otherwise, with the unification of the above heavens, the number of experts born in the Tianyuan universe would definitely be no less than the spiritualized universe. At the very least, the 3 worlds and 6 paths would have 9 tribulation transcendence experts. Coupled with the heretic experts like the Eternals had the 3 pillars and the 6 seas. Most of them belonged to the Tianyuan universe, so they would not be embroiled in war for long periods of time. Instead, they would join the above heavens to cultivate. There would definitely be a few more tribulation transcendence experts, let alone the primordial realm. This does not include the reincarnation universe, the 3 monarch universe and those parallel universes. Too bad. It was because they had been suppressed from the very beginning. Originally, they should have been happy. After seeing the spiritualized universe clearly, they would feel more confident. However, the truth was that the 9 heavens universe was an unfathomable monster. Just the 9 heavens universe alone had 3 eternal realm experts. It would be difficult to deal with them. As they thought about this, a battleship arrived from behind. Soon after, battleships arrived one after another. In the end, all 7 battleships stopped in front of the gate. Inside the gate, many spiritualized cultivators who had stayed behind to fight in the universe of consciousness were excited. It was finally going to end. They originally thought that only 1 battleship had arrived, but when they saw that it was Reboot, they knew it was not that simple. In particular, they felt Yusang Tian's vague presence on Reboot, which made them even more excited. There were a total of 7 battleships. Wait, how could there be 7? Weren't there only 6 space-time battleships? They looked at Wu Jiang. Where did this battleship come from? Its size was only second to Reboot, but they had never seen it before. No one explained it to them. As the battleships started moving, they all headed in different directions. They did not stay here for long. Wu Jiang also started moving, and Yusang Tian's voice traveled to Lu Yin's ears. If we move together, we will be too big of a target. This place was previously occupied by sentient life forms, and I only cleared them after I arrived. Our target is the realm of Earth, and I've already given you the location. Destroy all sentient life forms that see the battleships along the way. As long as we destroy the realm of Earth, the universe of consciousness can be reactivated at any time. I promise you that I will not touch the Tianyuan universe, at least as long as it is within my control. Also, there is a place in the realm of Earth called the Heavenly Tower. It is the most ancient place in the universe of consciousness, and there might be a stronger way to use consciousness there. If you are interested, you can follow me and search for it. In just a few short sentences, Yusang Tian had used the threat of the Tianyuan universe as well as the enticement of the Heavenly Tower. This battle to destroy the realm of Earth was very important to Yusang Tian. If Wu Jiang wanted to protect the Tianyuan universe, he had to perform well in this battle. Lu Yin was surprised that Yu Sang Tian had actually mentioned the existence of the Heavenly Tower. If he had only been tempted, he could have used other methods, such as allowing Wu Jiang to return to the Tianyuan universe. Lu Yin was very clear that this was the greatest temptation for Wu Jiang, and he could have concealed the existence of the Heavenly Tower. But now Yu Sang Tian had mentioned the Heavenly Tower. Could it be that the 13 celestial phenomenon had guessed wrongly? Did Yu Sang Tian not have any ideas about the Heavenly Tower at all? No matter what, Wu Jiang would not participate in the battle to destroy the realm of Earth. Lu Yin knew that this was a trap set for Yu Sang Tian, so how could he throw his life away? However, he wanted to personally witness the battle, both to prevent the universe of consciousness from using the same method against him and to confirm the outcome. Even if Yu Sang Tian could survive this, he would definitely reveal his true strength. Lu Yin's eyes flashed, and Wu Jiang headed in a certain direction without speaking to the spiritualized cultivators who had stayed behind. Ever since Wu Huang and Jiao Shao had returned to the spiritualized universe to participate in the ritual, these cultivators had closed the door, afraid that they would be surrounded and killed by the 13 celestials. This was indeed the case, as Yu Sang Tian had already said that he had only cleared out the spiritualized universe behind the door after arriving. This meant that this place had been occupied by sentient life forms, so it was no wonder that Lu Yin could not see any special characteristics of the spiritualized universe. Perhaps this was also the reason for building this door. It was to allow the spiritualized cultivators in the universe of consciousness to have a place to stay. Something similar had happened in the Tianyuan universe before, and Tianxi had been hiding behind the door. If not for Lu Yin's superior methods, he would not have been able to do anything to him. Every battleship's route was different, but it had been meticulously prepared by Beyond Heaven. There were 7 routes, and they were not just simple routes. This was a star chart that had been created by the spiritualized universe after countless years of fighting in the universe of consciousness. It was priceless. Lu Yin did not know the routes of the other battleships, nor did he know if the route that Wu Jiang was taking was safe. Logically speaking, it should be. Yu Sang Tian wanted Wu Jiang to reach the realm of Earth, and Yu Sang Tian himself had some unknown plans for Lu Yin. Broken world. Someone exclaimed. Everyone on Wu Jiang's ship looked over. Not far away, the starry sky was like a flickering shadow. A giant gray plant had pierced through a planet, and it seemed to be absorbing nutrients. Wu Jiang subconsciously slowed down as he watched this scene. Old Tao explained, "This is just an ordinary broken world. That plant has power close to that of a spirit warrior, and anyone who has reached that level can ignore it. Almost all the teams in the universe of consciousness are led by the spirit ancestor, so no one cares about this broken world. There are countless broken worlds like this one." Wu Jiang swept past the broken world and continued forward. Not long after, they saw another broken world. It was a lake that had appeared out of nowhere, and it was like a silhouette of time that flowed past. Then they saw another broken world with dilapidated walls. It had a completely strange architectural style, and there were also strange diagrams and words. Judging from the size of this building, it did not seem like it had been inhabited by humans. It was too big, even bigger than the Tianyuan universe's small giants. The diagrams on it made people feel uncomfortable and stifled. Along the way, Old Tao introduced all the broken worlds that they saw. These broken worlds were too close to the borders of the universe of consciousness, and he had seen many of them before. Although broken worlds would expire, this period could be very long or very short. Old Tao could recognize almost half of the broken worlds around them, but he had either not seen the rest before or had changed. Along the way, they also saw a small team of spiritualized cultivators in one of the broken worlds. Old Tao scolded them, but he only scolded them on Wu Jiang, and his voice did not spread outside. Most of the broken worlds were harmless, and many spiritualized cultivators were numb to them, so they often entered them. The broken worlds that Old Tao had been able to recognize were things that Lu Yin could enter as well. These teams' understanding of the broken worlds around them might not be inferior to his. Lu Yin stood at the bow and released his consciousness to the surroundings. Any consciousness life form that saw Wu Jiang would not be able to escape. The range of his consciousness far exceeded what a consciousness life form could see in Wu Jiang, and it was enough to ensure that Wu Jiang approached the realm of intent Earth without anyone noticing. There were many consciousness life forms in the universe of consciousness. Lu Yin was like a fish in water, constantly absorbing their consciousnesses. His back was facing everyone and no one could see the joy in his eyes. This universe of consciousness really could allow his consciousness to transform. Along the way, Lu Yin saw many broken worlds. Some were filled with slaughter while others had beautiful scenery. Even the gray color could not stop the beauty. Stop. Wait for me. Lu Yin walked out of Wujiang and headed in a certain direction. He recognized his surroundings. In Huamani's memories, there was an entrance to a parallel spacetime, and there were many consciousness life forms in that parallel spacetime. That was where the consciousness life forms ambushed spiritualized cultivators. As long as a spiritualized cultivator unintentionally approached that place, they would be surrounded and killed by the consciousness life forms. Chapter 3684. It was not easy to fight in the universe of consciousness. The spiritualized universe had invaded the universe of consciousness and had accumulated a lot of hatred over the years. This was because many spiritualized cultivators had died here. In this universe, the death rate was high. Often, only half of the cultivators on a battleship would return, and the other half would not even know how they died. Small teams worked together to fight against consciousness life forms, but even so, if a team died, the other teams would not know the reason, which was very normal. Part of the reason was because of this trap. A parallel spacetime entrance could send out a corresponding consciousness life form based on the spiritualized cultivator's strength, and the success rate was almost 100%. Soon Lu Yin arrived at the parallel spacetime entrance, entered and appeared in a foreign spacetime. As far as the eye could see, there were conscious beings everywhere. Although there were far fewer of them than humans since they could reproduce, there were still quite a few of them. When they saw Lu Yin appear, they whizzed over and countless consciousnesses fused together to suppress him. Lu Yin's lips curled up. This number was not bad, and there were even 2-star-grade consciousness life forms that corresponded to the laws of the universe. When Lu Yin walked out of that parallel spacetime, it meant that there were no longer any threats. Wujiang continued forward. Huamani's understanding of the consciousness universe was not something that spiritualized cultivators could compare to. Along the way, Lu Yin saw several parallel spacetime entrances and he went to all of them. Although not every parallel spacetime had many consciousness life forms, the consciousnesses he absorbed along the way already surpassed what he had absorbed in the spiritualized universes, including those in the realm of intent. If he absorbed another star-grade consciousness, he would completely surpass what he had absorbed in the spiritualized universes. Now the open nine skies in his heart continued to expand, and his consciousness planet also rotated, becoming more and more solid. According to the route that Yusang Tian had given him, it would take 2 months to reach the realm of intent from the border. He did not know how long the other battleships would take, but he believed that Yusang Tian would be willing to wait until he could no longer wait. Yusang Tian would not give up on attacking the realm of intent just because Wujiang did not come. He was also afraid of being discovered by the 13 celestial phenomenon. Even if this was a trap that they had set for him, he did not know about it. Wujiang continued to travel, but it didn't follow the route given by Yusang Tian. Instead, it kept changing. Of course, it didn't deviate from the general route. It was still heading towards the realm of Earth. More than a month passed. During this time, Lu Yin had absorbed too much consciousness, and the 9 heavens transformation continued to expand. His consciousness planet's density had also surpassed that of a god force planet, and it slowly rotated in the starry sky where his heart was. The ancestor of the past had been observing Lu Yin all this time, and she realized that Lu Yin had a special understanding of the consciousness universe. Every time he made a turn, he would always return to his original path. The ancestor of the past did not know the reason why he would leave midway. She also wanted to know what Lu Yin was doing and how he understood the consciousness universe. Wu Wei was in Lu Yin's hands, and this was something that the former ancestor knew. However, even Wu Wei should not have understood the current universe that well. After all, he had been gone for too long and many of the destroyed worlds had changed locations. She was finding it harder and harder to see through Lu Yin, and she was glad that she had not concealed the fact that she had obtained the Tome of Forbidden. On this day, Lu Yin suddenly had Wujiang stop and he frowned as he stared into space. Oh, this one. The route was wrong. The cultivators of the consciousness universe and the spiritualized universe had been fighting for so many years, and both sides had been trying to find ways to trap the other. The route ahead would actually lead to a trap that had been hidden for a very long time and that the consciousness universe had never used. Ahead, they would pass through dozens of planets that were parallel to each other, and each planet had a spiritual treasure. Once these spiritual treasures were moved, they would coincidentally form a spiritual treasure array. This array was naturally formed by the universe and it was not a layout. The greatest use of this array was to make it difficult for everything within its range to move. Once that happened, the consciousness universe would be able to attack without restraint. This array was actually reserved for experts at Sang Tian's level, and it was useless against Wu Jiang. Lu Yin's strength was enough to shatter the array, and even if he did not act, the progenitor could do it as well as the other experts on Wu Jiang. This was something that Lu Yin had learned from Huamani's memories. Why had Yu Sang Tian arranged this route for Wu Jiang? Wu Jiang would definitely not fall into this trap, and even the 13 celestial phenomenon ambushes would be useless. However, they would definitely be exposed and attract even more consciousness life forms. Using Wu Jiang as bait. If that was the case, then Yu Sang Tian had to know about this trap. Would Yu Sang Tian know? Lu Yin was not sure, as only the 13 celestial phenomenon and a few celestial phenomenon consciousness life forms knew about this trap. Even Wu Wei did not know, and if Yu Sang Tian wanted to know, he would have to have someone in the consciousness universe. It was not impossible. The patriarch had arranged for Yi Meng to pretend to join the spiritualized universe and lure Yu Sang Tian into this trap. Yu Sang Tian also had a way to control a certain consciousness life form. Lu Yin had not thought of this before, but now he had to think about it. If that was the case, then did Yu Sang Tian really not know about the Earth Realm's trap? Logically speaking, Yu Sang Tian should not have let Lu Yin guess this. Could this trap be a coincidence? At that moment, a consciousness swept past, causing Lu Yin's expression to change. He had Wu Jiang stay where he was and walked out of outer space, instantly vanishing. In front of Wu Jiang, there was an enormous consciousness that came from many consciousness life forms. One of them was above all the other life forms, and it was one of the 13 celestial phenomenon consciousness life forms, Xingju. This was a trap that the consciousness universe had set up for the spiritualized universe, and it had not been used for many years. However, every once in a while a member of the 13 celestial phenomenon would come to inspect it, as this place was definitely capable of burying a powerhouse on the level of Sang Tian. During this time, Xingju had already inspected the spirit treasure array and was about to leave, but he suddenly had a sudden impulse and used his consciousness to scan the surroundings. He wanted to see if there were any changes in the surrounding space. If a broken world had mysteriously appeared here, then the spiritualized cultivators would definitely not come over and this trap would be useless. What he did not expect was to find Wu Jiang after scanning the surroundings with his consciousness. Only spiritualized cultivators could build a battleship. Such a large and unfamiliar battleship shocked Xingju, and he immediately had his consciousness life form contact the Earth realm to report this matter. As for himself, he was certain that the cultivator on the battleship had sensed him, but so what? He was one of the 13 celestial phenomena, and in the consciousness universe, even a spiritualized powerhouse on the level of Sang Tian might not be able to do anything to him, especially in this area. If Sang Tian really did make a move, then it would be a good opportunity to use this trap to bury him. It would also serve as a prelude to killing Yu Sang Tian. The tomato. The next moment Lu Yin walked out of the void and looked up. Huamani was in the distance. In his memories, there were countless sentient life forms in the periphery of the trap. Some had taken the initiative to take on different forms, but most were in human form while others were passive. In Lu Yin's eyes they were like dark clouds, the largest of which was naturally Xingju, one of the 13 celestial phenomena. Lu Yin's eyes lit up. It was here. He had been thinking that if he could absorb the consciousness of a 13 celestial phenomena cultivator, then it would completely surpass the total amount of consciousnesses he had absorbed in the spiritualized universe. Not long after he had thought about it, this person had arrived. Moreover, from the looks of it, this 13 celestial phenomena cultivator had no intention of running away. This was interesting. Lu Yin was confident that he could stop him if he wanted to run, but this was the consciousness universe after all, and there was the possibility of a broken world. Huamani had been in the spiritualized universe for a long time, and the surroundings had changed quite a bit. "Human, state your name," Xingju said, and the sentient life forms around him spread out to surround Lu Yin. Lu Yin's aura was restrained, and with his power level, Xingju could not see through his concealment. However, Lu Yin was only in the progenitor realm, so he could be seen through. This was what Lu Yin wanted to be seen through. Lu Yin looked at Xingju's enormous consciousness. "You're a 13 celestial phenomena cultivator?" You're not afraid of me and your gaze is very calm. It seems that you've hidden your strength. If I'm not wrong, you're a spiritual prime powerhouse and have cultivated in your spiritualized universe's intent realm. Your resistance to consciousness is very strong, which is why you're not afraid of me, a 13 celestial phenomena cultivator. Is that right? Xingju asked. He was not stupid, and Lu Yin's performance contradicted what he had seen. Lu Yin smiled and clasped his hands behind his back. Smart. I'm very sure that you can't deal with me, but it's strange. The consciousness universe is so big, so how did I encounter a 13 celestial phenomena cultivator like you? Xingju's laughter rang out. You'll never know. Today's outcome was already decided. I'll give you a chance. Join my consciousness universe and I'll let you leave alive. Lu Yin shook his head. Our life forms are different. How can we merge? Many people have sided with us. Xingju believed that Lu Yin's life was in his control and spoke without restraint. Lu Yin's eyes flashed. No wonder there were so many consciousness life forms hidden in the spiritualized universe. There were definitely cultivators who had sided with the consciousness universe, and those cultivators had worked together to cover up part of the truth. To the spiritualized universe as a whole, these traitorous cultivators were actually useless. They had not done anything to the spiritualized universe, so they would not be discovered. The only thing they needed to do was cover up their traces. Lu Yin believed that these traitorous cultivators also did not know where the consciousness life forms were hidden, and the consciousness universe would also hide it from them. Their role was to be used as tools, nothing more. A cultivator with my strength would never side with the consciousness universe, Lu Yin retorted. Xingju sneered. You've cultivated to this level, but you still can't see through human nature. I can only grieve for you. Then die. After he finished speaking, boundless consciousnesses descended from the surroundings like mountains and seas, crushing over. They were accompanied by various consciousnesses that were equivalent to consciousness-type battle techniques. Among them, Lu Yin even saw a power similar to the Great Sky Split Disk. Lu Yin stood tall in outer space and allowed these consciousnesses to bombard him. He stood majestically, his gaze fixed on Xingju. Xingju was astonished. Your consciousness has reached the astral phenomenon realm? Lu Yin smiled. Why don't you guess? You're courting death. Xingju attacked, and a terrifying consciousness covered the sky, surpassing all other consciousness life forms. It was like a curtain of darkness falling from the sky, almost materializing. Chapter 3685. This scene reminded Lu Yin of Wu Wei's great sky-carving disc, which was a near-physical consciousness attack. This Xingju's power level even surpassed Huamani's. Lu Yin's gaze turned cold as he stepped forward and instantly vanished. Xingju's consciousness covered the entire area like a swamp. He had fought with cultivators for many years and knew how to deal with powerful cultivators. Cultivators who wanted to deal with pure consciousness life forms either had to have a powerful consciousness or bombard the void with a realmless to wear down their opponent's consciousness. Consciousness life forms responded by spreading their consciousness throughout the universe, making it difficult for cultivators to move. Even if they could leave, their every move would be under the consciousness life form's control. The two had fought for many years and understood each other too well. It was often easy to tell whether one could defeat the other. Xingju had thought that he could use his consciousness to suppress Lu Yin and restrict his movements. However, when Lu Yin's consciousness moved as if he were walking on flat ground, Xingju knew that he was in big trouble. This person had actually ignored his consciousness attack, which meant that he had the ability to fight against Xingju's consciousness. Once this person got close, Xingju would be in danger. Who was this human? Why had he not seen him before? Lu Yin had fought against more than one Sangtian, such as Meng Sangtian and the 100 Grass Sangtian. None of those Sangtians had been able to face Lu Yin directly, and they had only been able to distance themselves from him and think of ways to deal with his consciousness. This was also the reason why Lu Yin had dared to stay behind and fight Lu Yin. This person had never appeared in the consciousness universe before, but his strength was so terrifying. Where had he come from? This was too illogical. Xingju immediately retreated. His consciousness retreated like a tide, and the other consciousness life forms around him retreated even more decisively than Xingju. Lu Yin was too much of a threat, so much so that they no longer wanted to fight. Even if he wanted to run, was that even possible? Lu Yin was already very close to Xingju, and he struck out with a palm that destroyed the void. A powerful force pierced through the heavens, creating a path of darkness that devoured Xingju's consciousness along the way. Xingju was shocked. This strength? Who are you? Lu Yin frowned. He could not fight like this as he still needed to absorb this person's consciousness. Thinking about this, a beam of light shot through the void and reversed for a second. The consciousness that had been devoured by the realmless returned, and it was as if that palm had never been unleashed. Xingju was stunned. The power of time combined with the strength from before made this human more threatening than Emperor Wu. Since when had such a terrifying person appeared in this spiritualized universe? He did not hesitate to flee, and as he retreated, his consciousness transformed into shadows that extended all the way to Lu Yin's feet. Lu Yin frowned. Shadow? Was this guy's combat skill? Before he could think further, a familiar scene appeared in front of him. A blade descended from the sky and slashed into the woman's body. That woman was Ming Yan. Lu Yin's pupils shrank. Yan. The surface of his body trembled and the surrounding starry skies shook. This caused Xingju to turn around in shock. Impossible, this guy's consciousness was at the starry sky level? He stared blankly at Lu Yin. Just who was this person? Lu Yin clenched his fists as Xingju's consciousness had triggered the fear in his heart. He had once again seen Yan being stabbed by Xiaji's blade, which had caused his mind to become unsteady. This was a technique that directly affected one's consciousness. If not for the fact that his consciousness was strong enough to disperse it, this fear would have been deeply imprinted in his mind. He had experienced this technique more than once, and the one that had left the deepest impression on him was by Xiaohong's innate gift, heart. It allowed one to see what one missed, feared, hated, or loved the most. Both techniques allowed an enemy to see what they feared the most. One could only be seen while the other could be directly imprinted into one's consciousness. Heart innate gifts were very unique, and this 13 celestial phenomenon cultivator could cultivate a similar power. Its level far surpassed this innate gift, but it was also based on one's consciousness. As long as the opponent's consciousness was stronger, this power would be useless. Who are you? Xingju's voice echoed throughout the heavens. This was already the third time he had asked this question. He could not understand how such a terrifying person had suddenly appeared in the spiritualized universe and could even ignore his battle technique. His name was Xingju, Nightmare Xingju. His consciousness could allow other life forms to see what they feared the most. As long as one's consciousness was not stronger than his, they would not be able to escape, and there was no limit to the amount of consciousness he could use. With this technique he would not be afraid even if he faced two Sangtians at the same time. He could split his consciousness and strike fear into all spiritualized cultivators as long as there were no top-tier powerhouses interfering. But today his technique had actually failed. He had encountered a human whose consciousness was stronger than his. What a joke, this was a human. He had never dreamed that such a day would come. Even if it was Yu Sangtian, he did not believe that his own consciousness would be weak. Yu Sangtian's consciousness was at most at the cosmic realm. Lu Yin's gaze was cold. Congratulations, you've angered me. Since you like consciousness, I'll use my consciousness to play with you. After he finished speaking, a terrifying consciousness surged out and instantly changed the heavens and the earth. It covered the universe's starry sky and spread out. Not only did it cover the trap, but it also covered the boundless expanse and the consciousness life forms that were fleeing even further away. The entire starry sky was covered by the consciousness and the sky collapsed. Xingju was shocked. No, this was impossible. This person's consciousness was ranked at the top of the 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators. How was this possible? Lu Yin's consciousness had already reached the celestial phenomenon level, and after absorbing so much underground consciousness, he had reached the cosmic realm. He had then absorbed many consciousness life forms from parallel spacetimes, as well as the Heavens Craftsman realm, the Arc realm, and other hidden consciousness life forms. Although he had used up a lot of his consciousness, he had also absorbed Huamani's. In other words, he had almost 2 cosmic realm consciousnesses which naturally surpassed Xingju's. When this consciousness appeared, Xingju knew that it was over. There was no way he could resist it. Monster, this was a monster. A consciousness life form's attack could be complicated, but it could also be simple. As long as one's consciousness surpassed the consciousness life forms, it would be difficult for the consciousness life form to win. Battle techniques were rare in the consciousness universe. Here they only had methods of using consciousness. Wu Wei's Sword of Heaven was an exception. Aside from the sword itself, Very few people in both the consciousness and spiritualized universes knew of this technique. But if one's consciousness could not surpass a consciousness life forms, then one would have to think of a way. This was especially true when facing a consciousness life form's consciousness. Lu Yin had a deep impression of the technique He Wuxian had used, Endless Road. Back then He Wuxian had used this technique to prevent Wu Jiang from going to Immemorial City. If not for Huizhu, that battle would have been troublesome. At the time, everyone had thought that it was He Wuxian's innate gift combined with the true God's freedom technique. Later on, Lu Yin found out that it was He Wuxian's method of using consciousness in conjunction with the true God's freedom technique. This allowed a person's consciousness to be extended infinitely, to the point where even though they could clearly see the end, they would not be able to reach it. There were many similar methods of using consciousness, and it was not easy to break through them. Every consciousness life form had their own method of using consciousness. Hua Mani had used his consciousness to grasp the horizontal flower shadow, causing space to reverse. Wu Wei's great sky-carving disc was a materialized consciousness, and it was also a method of using consciousness. This 13 celestial phenomenon's method of using consciousness was to draw out a creature's fear. This was because consciousness encompassed thoughts and memories, and this was Wu Wei's method. All methods of using consciousness were based on consciousness itself. If one's consciousness was not strong enough, then their foundation would be shattered. When he saw that Lu Yin's consciousness had completely surpassed his own, Xingju knew that he was no match for Lu Yin. His method of using consciousness had not been effective from the start, and all he could do was flee. In the distance, everyone on Wu Jiang looked up at the sky. They knew that Lu Yin had encountered a powerful enemy, or else he would not have used such a majestic consciousness. The ancestor was the most shocked. She knew that Lu Yin's consciousness was very strong, and it was constantly growing stronger, but she had not expected it to be this strong. How was this possible? He was clearly a human from the Tianyuan universe, so how could he have such a terrifying consciousness? Only consciousness life forms would be truly shocked by such a consciousness. One had to know that when she had been at the celestial phenomenon level, she had been the strongest consciousness in the Tianyuan universe. Neither an eternal nor a primogenitor could surpass her. However, a junior had actually surpassed her in such a short amount of time, and not just by a little bit. At that moment, the ancestor's mentality changed. Joining hands with Wu Jiang to deal with the spiritualized universe? This was not realistic from the start. It was not that they could not defeat the spiritualized universe, but that if they did, even more terrifying monsters would be released. In the distant sky, shadows continuously gathered, but they could not get close to Lu Yin. Lu Yin raised a hand, and his consciousness gathered above the sky as the great sky-carving disc descended. Xingju's consciousness surged up. Great sky-carving disc? What does Wu Wei have to do with you? Lu Yin could not be bothered to answer. The great sky-carving disc ruthlessly smashed down, directly penetrating Xingju's consciousness and causing it to shrink. In Lu Yin's eyes, Xingju's dark cloud had shrunk by a third. To a consciousness life form, this was a heavy blow. Lu Yin's finger flicked up and then he brought it down again. Great sky-carving disc. Human, my name is Xingju and I'm a celestial phenomenon. You can't kill me. I have value in keeping me alive, Xingju shouted. Lu Yin's eyes narrowed. Restrain your consciousness and follow me. Xingju's consciousness surged and he hesitated. Lu Yin sneered and the great sky-carving disc ruthlessly descended. Consciousness life forms used their consciousness not only to deal with spiritualized cultivators. Before spiritualized cultivators appeared, the consciousness universe itself also had battles, and consciousness life forms also needed to cultivate. Only by wiping out consciousness life forms could the consciousness of this universe increase and strengthen other consciousness life forms. This was the law of the jungle, and it would not change no matter where it was. The great sky-carving disc was effective against cultivators, but it was also effective against consciousness life forms. In the surroundings, countless consciousness shadows surged over, but Xingju did not give up. He thought of all sorts of ways to deal with Lu Yin, but in front of Lu Yin's boundless consciousness, these consciousnesses were like mayflies trying to shake a tree. They could not even shake him. The great sky-carving disc ruthlessly smashed down, and Xingju's body shrank again. He begged and howled, but it was useless. Lu Yin looked on coldly and the great sky-carving disc descended once more. At that moment, the surrounding consciousnesses suddenly condensed, forming a mirror in front of Lu Yin. Inside the mirror was the Above Heaven sect, the Boulder Foundation, the Imperial Robe, and Yusang Tian. On this day, Yusang Tian had destroyed the Above Heaven sect, burned Immemorial City, and massacred the entire Tianyuan universe. No one was his match. Chapter 3686. The mirror flew towards Lu Yin, and even though his consciousness was shaken, it didn't shatter. Lu Yin didn't move from his spot as the mirror passed through. A dark figure walked out of the mirror and turned to face Lu Yin. This was another Lu Yin. Lu Yin stared at the dark Lu Yin and recalled some of Huamani's memories. He recalled that Huamani's memories called Xingju's nightmare celestial phenomenon used fear as a mirror. Huamani's understanding of Xingju was that he could draw out a creature's greatest fear. When Xingju had first attacked, Lu Yin had recalled it. However, this celestial phenomenon didn't pose any threat to him, so he hadn't paid it much mind. Old Chief's description of Xingju was that he was a man in the mirror, a nightmare among men. No one knew what this meant, and even Huamani, who was also a celestial phenomenon, had never experienced it. But now Lu Yin knew. This was a man in the mirror, a nightmare among men. The dark Lu Yin was the embodiment of all the fear that Lu Yin had experienced. It didn't have much attack power, and Xingju had simply stripped the fear from Lu Yin's consciousness and made him experience it all over again. Lu Yin couldn't avoid it, nor would he do so. The fear that he had experienced wasn't just fear, but also the process, karma, and memories. If he lost these fears, he wouldn't be complete. The mirror suddenly flew in a certain direction and dragged the dark Lu Yin over. This was Xingju's most deeply hidden power, and only Old Chief had seen it before. The other celestial phenomenon cultivators had never seen it before. This was a life-saving move. At Lu Yin's level of cultivation, he knew that he couldn't lose these fears. Xingju was throwing them far away so that Lu Yin could chase after them so that he could escape. Lu Yin would eventually catch up to the dark Lu Yin, and if Lu Yin wanted to regain those fears, he had to experience them all over again. This was his trump card. Even though it couldn't harm Lu Yin, he couldn't do anything while experiencing those fears. No matter how high a person's cultivation was, their greatest enemy wasn't other creatures but themselves. Immortality was a realm of their own, not something that was bestowed upon them. Thus, to break through to immortality, one had to break through themselves. To experience those fears again, one had to face their past selves. This move wasn't a killing move, but it was one that Xingju was confident in protecting his life. The moment the mirror dragged Grey Lu Yin away, Xingju's consciousness suddenly returned. He had been hiding all this time, and now he unleashed all of his strength. He forcibly withstood the great sky-carving disk's attack and fled in the opposite direction. Lu Yin took a step forward, and just as Xingju had predicted, he chased after the mirror. It was impossible for him to lose sight of his own fear. When Xingju saw this, he heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly fled. 5 seconds. There were only 5 seconds left. Even though Xingju had fled far away, he could still see Lu Yin standing in the distance. You gave up on your past? Xingju was in disbelief. Could it be that this person didn't know what it meant to lose one's past? You don't want to break through to immortality? You want to be an incomplete person? Lu Yin looked at Xingju calmly. Is your technique unbreakable? Xingju was at a loss. Of course, there was no solution. The old chief had also said that as long as one cultivated the Tao, regardless of whether they were sentient life forms or living creatures, they would all feel fear. With fear, it was impossible to give up on the past. As long as one wanted to continue cultivating, those creatures who didn't understand the serious consequences of this matter couldn't threaten him. Therefore, his methods were unbreakable. Even if this person could catch up to the mirror so quickly, it would be impossible for him to regain his fear so quickly. Yes. In space where Xingju couldn't see, karma slowly entered Lu Yin's body. Fear? Where did this fear come from? Because certain things happened for a reason, there was an effect. Fear was just an effect. Lu Yin used the karma thread to pierce through Grey Lu Yin and return this karma to his body. There was no need for him to experience fear. How could Xingju's methods strip him of his past and tear apart his karma? The first clan. The terror of karma wasn't something a normal cultivator could imagine. In front of the Tao of karma, anyone below the eternal realm could only look up to it, including Yusang Tian, who had completed coup adversity. Once Lu Yin cultivated the Tao of karma, Yusang Tian wouldn't be a match for him. Xingju couldn't figure out how Lu Yin had broken through his technique, and he kept retreating. Human, let me go and I'll tell you a secret. Speak. Lu Yin's tone was cold. Xingjue said, there's a huge secret in the Earth domain. Have you heard of the Heavenly E-Tower? No, Lu Yin said. Xingjue continued, the Heavenly E-Tower is the most ancient place in the consciousness universe. It's said that the path to immortality exists there, so the 13 Celestials want to explore the Heavenly E-Tower the most. Your spiritualized universe's Yu Sang Tian must have come for the Heavenly E-Tower as well. Does Yu Sang Tian know of the Heavenly E-Tower's existence? Lu Yin asked. He had thought of this before. Wu Wei hadn't told Yu Sang Tian and neither had Hua Mani, so how did Yu Sang Tian know? He was even willing to share the Heavenly E-Tower with Lu Yin. He seemed to care about it, but at the same time he didn't care. Xingjue was very certain. Yu Sang Tian must know. Back then 5 of the 13 Celestials surrounded him and Wu Wei was one of them. 2 of them died in that battle and Wu Wei surrendered. It was because of that battle that we were certain that Yu Sang Tian was looking for the Heavenly E-Tower. Perhaps he doesn't know the name, but he's definitely looking for this place. Lu Yin nodded. Well said. I'm interested as well. Come follow me. Xingjue went on guard. Human, as long as you let me go, I can tell you more secrets about the consciousness universe. I know about the other 13 Celestials, including some of the secrets of your spiritualized universe. I'll also tell you the secret of the Heavenly E-Tower. Lu Yin suddenly moved, his consciousness pressing forward to grab Xingjue. Xingjue shouted, Human, you forced me to do this. With that, his consciousness scattered, turning into countless consciousness shadows that scattered in all directions. Lu Yin's consciousness descended and enveloped the starry sky. Not a single one could escape. Suddenly he looked at one of the consciousness shadows, and that consciousness shadow headed towards the broken world. There was a broken world in the distance. Lu Yin had discovered it when he was chasing after Xingjue. Others might not recognize that broken world, but he remembered that it came from the Tome of Forbidden. That broken world was one of the rare ones in the Tome of Forbidden whose depths were unknown. No sentient life forms were willing to investigate it. Those spiritualized cultivators who were forced into the broken world had all died, including a spirit prime. Xingjue had no choice but to dive into the broken world. The rest of the consciousness shadows slowly dissipated, and the consciousness shadow that had escaped into the broken world was Xingjue. When the consciousness shadow entered the broken world, it stopped moving. From the outside, the broken world was filled with rocks. It was as if countless rocks had shattered into a valley, and not a single blade of grass grew. Lu Yin slowly approached the broken world and finally stopped at the edge. With one more step he would enter the broken world, and Xingjue was just 3 steps away from him. Stop, human. This is a broken world. Do you dare to enter? Xingjue's voice rang out, and he used his consciousness to transmit into the broken world. He didn't dare to speak loudly. Nonsense. In a broken world, once there was a disturbance, no one could guarantee what would happen. When Lu Yin entered the world within a monument for the first time, he had also silently sat in the restaurant and didn't dare to move. He had Blackie and Xiao Bai beside him, and any movement could cause the gray shadows in the world within a monument to attack him. At that time he thought that those gray shadows were the remnant essence, energy and soul of the past. Now he didn't know how to explain it. In this broken world, the consciousness lifeforms knew that it was the remnant consciousness of the past. In short, there were all sorts of explanations. Lu Yin looked at Xingjue. Why don't you dare to enter? Xingjue replied, don't you know that the broken world is dangerous? There is no danger. I have never encountered a broken world that is too dangerous. Many cultivators in our spiritualized universe treat broken worlds as scenic spots. Lu Yin didn't care. Of course Xingjue knew about this. 99% of the broken worlds in the consciousness universe weren't dangerous, but the remaining 10% had caused the deaths of many spiritualized cultivators. They had constantly used cultivators to probe the broken worlds, and that was how they had obtained the more detailed Tome of Forbidden. This broken world is different. How is it different? A spirit prime died here. Lu Yin was astonished. That's impressive, but how can a spirit prime compare to me? Xingjue threatened. A spirit prime would die here in an instant. Even we don't know how dangerous this broken world is. If you insist on dealing with me, we will die together. Lu Yin sneered. I don't believe you. After speaking, he stepped into the broken world. The surroundings were gray and there were stones everywhere. It was desolate and ancient and there was a sinister aura. Lu Yin thought that he had seen a ghost when he first entered the monument world. Xingjue was shocked. Human, don't be rash. I'm not lying to you. This broken world is too dangerous. You don't want to die, right? Even the 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators don't dare to enter this broken world. To tell you the truth, this is also a place where we lure you humans to your death. Lu Yin obviously knew how dangerous this broken world was. He could only pretend that he didn't care and try his best to force Xingjue out. No one wanted to face the unknown, even if Lu Yin was extremely confident in his strength. Every time he took a step forward, Xingjue would take a step back. Their movements were very small and they didn't even touch the stones on the ground. Do you think I'll believe you? It's just a broken world, Lu Yin said. In my opinion, it's no different from other broken worlds. No, the scenery is a bit worse. Xingjue was anxious. This broken world was beneficial to the consciousness universe, and it was because of this broken world that the consciousness universe had been able to resist the spiritualized universe for so long. They had used this broken world to kill many spiritualized universe experts, so they couldn't tell the spiritualized universe about this broken world. However, there were disadvantages as well. If he met someone who didn't believe him, he would be implicated once he entered the broken world. Unfortunately, he couldn't explain it clearly. It was useless to say anything now. Helpless, Xingjue could only keep retreating. Soon he reached a mountain wall, and if he continued he would have to cross it. Hold on. Suddenly, Xingjue thought of something and stared at Lu Yin. You are afraid of this broken world. Lu Yin raised his brows. What nonsense are you talking about? Xingjue replied, if you weren't afraid, why would you be so careful? You would have taken action long ago. Did you already know that this broken world was dangerous? Lu Yin exhaled. A person's subconscious behavior could not be concealed. Even though he had only taken a few steps, his state of mind had been seen through. All right, I've been frightened by you. I don't know if this broken world is dangerous, but you seem to be really afraid. Chapter 3687. Xingjue didn't know if Lu Yin was telling the truth. I'm not lying to you. This broken world is ranked at the forefront of the entire consciousness universe. We're not afraid of it because it's dangerous, but because we don't know how dangerous it is. At the very least, your spiritualized universe's spirit primes won't be able to leave this place alive. They're already considered second-tier powerhouses. Lu Yin's eyes narrowed. Then why aren't you leaving? Let me go and I can tell you the secret. Both of us can leave safely. Speak. Human, we know how cunning you all are. I'll write the secret down in this broken world and you'll be able to get it once I leave. Lu Yin sneered. It's not like I haven't seen your little schemes before. Once I enter the broken world to take the item, it'll automatically explode and I'll be finished. You're called Xingjue, right? I'll give you one more chance. Tell me the secret and I'll let you go. Otherwise, I really want to see how powerful this broken world is. No matter how powerful the things here are, we won't die instantly. Who do you think has a higher chance of escaping? Xingjue coldly replied, it might not be you. I'm a consciousness and you're a physical body. In this broken world, consciousness life forms always have an advantage. Then let's try? Lu Yin was eager to try. Xingjue couldn't figure out Lu Yin's thoughts. If Lu Yin was clear about the dangers of this broken world, then it would be good. Xingjue could be certain that Lu Yin wouldn't dare to act recklessly. If not, then it would be troublesome. Xingjue was conflicted. I'll count to 3. You only have one chance. Lu Yin stared at Xingjue. The more he forced, the more this fellow panicked. 3. Xingjue growled. I guarantee that once this broken world is disturbed, you'll either die or be injured. How will you continue fighting in this consciousness universe? You humans compete with each other. You should be a newly ascended Sangtian. Don't think that I don't know that you Sangtians compete with each other. Back then the 100-grass Sangtian was the same. But, all right, I'll speak. Xingjue dared to gamble. Ignorant people were more daring when faced with danger, but consciousness lifeform's nature was to survive. Even if he could defeat the unknown, he couldn't defeat his own heart. Lu Yin's lips curled up. Speak. Xingjue was silent for a moment and then he said in a low voice, there are our people among you humans and they're controlled by consciousness. I can give you the list. Lu Yin raised his brows. What a familiar feeling. Catching a spy again? Interesting. Next, Xingju passed a name list to Lu Yin. Your spiritualized universe's Sang Tian has been here before. There's a Sang Tian who is very strange. He clearly had the chance to kill one of us, one of the 13 celestial phenomenon experts, but he didn't do it. As for that Sang Tian, I've asked the old leader, and the old leader confirmed that he isn't one of us. Why was that? TT. If they wanted to, the consciousness universe could block the spiritualized universe but not the nine heavens universe. Any supreme god could deal with the consciousness universe. If they wanted to restart it, they would have done it long ago. For supreme gods. Even if one died, there were 3 more. There were already 3 supreme gods. Did they not want to add another eternal life realm cultivator? But the vacant supreme god position had to be filled. Did they want it to be under their control? The spiritualized universe thought they could restart the consciousness universe, but in reality they would never get this chance. Everything they had done, the deaths they had experienced, the endless hatred, they were just paving the way for the nine heavens universe. The Tianyuan universe had been weakened to the future, and the spiritualized universe had allied with the Eternals to plot against the above heaven sect. The nine heavens universe must have been behind them. The 3 supreme deities were like gods, high and mighty, looking down on everything and controlling the universe. There's another secret that you want to know the most. Xingju paused and then said slowly, the location of the realm of Earth. Lu Yin's eyes narrowed. You're willing to tell me? Xingju knew that Lu Yin knew the location of the realm of Earth. Of course he knew, but he had to act like he didn't know. Only then could the old chief's plan to kill Yu Sang Tian. At this time, in order to save his life, it was best to say the location of the realm of Earth. Although this was not the answer Lu Yin wanted, he had to say it. Lu Yin also had to act like he didn't know before. As long as you let me go, I'll tell you. Lu Yin looked at the consciousness cloud in front of him. Okay. Xingju seemed to hesitate. After a while he said the location of the realm of Earth. It was the same as what Yu Sang Tian had told Lu Yin. How about it? Can you let me go now? Xingju said. His consciousness stared at Lu Yin, afraid that he would go back on his words. Lu Yin raised his hand and Xingju immediately became alert. He waved his hand. Go. Xingju was on tenterhooks. You want me to go? You don't want to? No, I'll go. Xingju floated up slowly. Seeing that the chance to live was in his hands, he didn't want to fail. Soon he walked out of the broken world and hurried in a certain direction. Lu Yin's gaze turned cold. He left the broken world, took a step and disappeared. Far away, Xingju screamed, You said you'd let me go. But I didn't say I wouldn't chase. Human, you're despicable. You're not bad either. Boom. The universe trembled and the consciousness rumbled. Then everything calmed down. Lu Yin stood in the starry sky with a gloomy expression. His figure disappeared again and he returned to the broken world. He looked inside and said, Come out. Within the broken world, an undetectable consciousness shadow emerged. It was Xingju. The one who had escaped was fake. He didn't believe Lu Yin at all. Human, you're despicable indeed. Lu Yin praised, Consciousness life forms like you that have lived for so long are really cautious. You didn't even try to escape. There's no place safer than this broken world. At least I can live here. Human, what's your name? Xingju asked. The moment he entered the broken world, he had hidden his true self. The one who had spoken to Lu Yin was just a wisp of consciousness. He had escaped to test Lu Yin. If he escaped, Lu Yin would also leave this place. His true self would be safe. If he couldn't escape, he would stay here. Since Lu Yin was willing to let him escape, it proved that Lu Yin was also apprehensive of this broken world. This place was the safest. Lu Yin was truly shocked. He hadn't expected Xingju to hide such a move after escaping into the broken world. These powerful life forms wouldn't die so easily, and each of them had many life-saving methods. Xingju could be considered one of the best. Regardless of whether it was the way he used his consciousness or the heart's eye, he was born to protect his life. He was more powerful than Wu Wei and Huamani. Lu Yin looked at Xingju in the broken world and said, You didn't escape earlier. It seems like you really don't plan on leaving this broken world. Human, you're also apprehensive of this broken world. I don't know where you found out about the dangers of this broken world, but I'm sure that you won't easily make a move here. Lu Yin sneered, Just because I won't easily make a move doesn't mean I won't. That's why I told you the secret in exchange for you not making a move against me in the broken world. That's not enough. Then what do you want? I remember you mentioned Etionk before. Xingju said, Etionk is the greatest secret of my consciousness universe. I won't tell you. Previously he had only mentioned Etion Quebec. At that time he was sure that he could escape and that Lu Yin would die with Yusang Tian in the realm of Etion. However, he wasn't so sure now. This human wasn't just powerful but he was also very sinister. Such a person wouldn't die so easily. Thus, he naturally couldn't reveal the secret of Etion Quebec. Lu Yin moved his arm. Are you sure you don't want to tell me? Xingju was apprehensive and retreated deeper into the broken world. Human, don't make a move in this broken world. Otherwise both you and I will die. Lu Yin raised his hand and pointed out. A finger force entered the broken world and shattered a rock. Just as he made his move, Xingju retreated. The rock shattered, but there was no movement in the broken world. Human, don't do meaningless things. If it was so easy to see the broken world, your spiritualized universe wouldn't have fought for so long. Lu Yin sighed. Since that's the case, let's make a bet. Let's see who can walk out alive. After speaking, he entered the broken world again. This time he didn't hesitate and released his consciousness towards Xingju. He didn't believe that no matter how dangerous this broken world was, it wouldn't be able to kill him here. At his current cultivation level, if he didn't even dare to touch a broken world, what was the point? Among the known living beings in the universe, only those in the eternal life realm could surpass him. As for the rest, even Yusang Tian, who was at the peak of Ku adversity realm, would have trouble dealing with him and might not be able to keep him here. He didn't believe that an eternal life realm expert would appear in this broken world. Xingju was shocked. Human, you're courting death. His consciousness covered the broken world and crashed down. Xingju was suppressed by Lu Yin's consciousness. At the same time, the ground of the broken world cracked open, and all the gray rocks in the surroundings smashed towards Lu Yin. Lu Yin casually shattered the rocks and appeared in front of Xingju in one step, grabbing at him. At this moment he felt a chill on his back as a terrifying danger descended. Lu Yin turned around and saw a square rock flying through the void towards his face. Lu Yin grabbed Xingju with one hand and struck the rock with the other. Bang! The void shattered and distorted, turning into cracks that extended in all directions and devoured everything. Lu Yin's gaze turned cold. Was this the power of a living being's limit? There was a cracking sound as the rock cracked open. At this moment, another square rock flew over. Many square rocks flew over from all directions and surrounded Lu Yin. Lu Yin suppressed Xingju with one hand while his other hand was covered with Palm Realm battle force. He waved his hand and the void paused for a moment. Then all the rocks shattered and the shockwave produced a terrifying power that lit up this corner of the universe. Xingju was shocked. What kind of power was this? Was he still human? Xingju could feel the danger brought by those square rocks. Every one of them could destroy the void and create an absolute dark universe that could devour consciousness. Chapter 3688. With dozens of cubes attacking at the same time, Lu Yin was certain that aside from Yusang Tian and Emperor Wu Huang, the rest of the spiritualized universe would not be able to withstand it. They would be severely injured in an instant and it would be difficult for them to even escape. This was the terror of this broken world. It was no wonder that the Spirit Prime had died without a sound. Such a terrifying attack had been destroyed by this human with a single hand. You must be Yusang Tian in disguise. Xingju couldn't help but suspect. At this moment he suspected that Yusang Tian knew that the Earth realm was a trap and deliberately disguised himself as another person. The Yusang Tian they knew was fake, so this person didn't tell them his name. Lu Yin's expression turned solemn, and a starry sky appeared in his heart as he pushed Xingju into the Hell of Appointment platform. He wanted to leave the broken world. However, cubes of stone appeared around him once more and attacked him. He pushed out with a single palm, and with a bang his divine battle force combined with limitless strength instantly destroyed all the cubes of stone. The limits of a lifeform's strength were not enough to harm him. Even if dozens of lifeforms were at the same level as Emperor Wu Huang's sealed sky foundation, they would still be pushed aside. The cubes of stone appeared once more in front of Lu Yin and ruthlessly attacked him. This time there was only one, but Lu Yin's expression changed slightly as the power had increased. He struck out with his palm and collided with the stone, causing it to shatter. In an instant, Another stone pierced through the shattered stone and struck Lu Yin's palm. Lu Yin frowned as the shockwave caused the stone to shatter once more. Another stone appeared, one after another. Each stone was stronger than the previous one, as if they had absorbed the previous shockwave. When the 20th stone arrived, Lu Yin felt a power that completely surpassed the limits of a life form. It was as if he could see Emperor Wu Huang using Sealed Sky Foundation to unleash a shocking attack. Unfortunately, this attack was still unable to defeat him. The stone shattered and another stone appeared. Lu Yin's eyes widened. There were more? He didn't know how many more stones there were. 30? 50? Or more than 100? The power could not be limitless and this universe could not withstand it. With a bang, Lu Yin's body was pushed back, and he used the force of the stones to leave the broken world. When he looked around, the broken world returned to normal just like when he had first entered. The ground was still the same ground, and the stones were still gray and devoid of any luster. It was deathly still. Just as he had guessed, no matter how powerful this broken world was, it would not be able to threaten him. He had yet to use the 9 heavens transformations. However, if the number of stones was truly infinite, then there was no way any creature could withstand it. But that was impossible. Lu Yin took a deep look at the broken world before turning to leave, returning to the boundless boundary. Not long after Lu Yin left, a consciousness life form arrived, circled around and then left. In the Earth realm, an old voice rang out, "Where is the reset?" "Almost at the Earth realm." A pleasant voice replied. It was a woman's voice. According to the time, restart should have already reached the Earth realm. Yusang Tian is stalling for time. What is he waiting for? Where are the other human arcs? The confirmed ones are all heading our way. Let's hope everything goes smoothly. We'll be able to get rid of the top human experts in one fell swoop, especially Yusang Tian. His Boulder's foundation is too much of a threat to us. Of course. We've sacrificed a lot for this plan. Why don't you take the initiative to transform into your human form? The old voice suddenly questioned the last person who spoke. There's no need. Once Yusang Tian dies, humanity will become a thing of the past. It's not that easy, the pleasant female voice said. There's one more thing, the old voice said in a low tone. Xingjue is missing. Xingjue? What happened? He encountered a strong human enemy. Impossible. With Xingjue's cautiousness, unless he encountered Yusang Tian, he wouldn't be defeated. He could still escape. Even the boundless boundary couldn't stop him. It's this arcs. Then an image of the boundless boundary appeared in the void. It's an unfamiliar arcs. I've never seen it before. It seems that a new super expert has appeared in the spiritualized universe. This person can take down Xingjue. His strength is not below the boundless boundary. The old voice said, he must be stronger than the boundless boundary. Are you sure? The pleasant female voice was surprised. Then she thought of something. Only you have seen the person in the mirror, the nightmare among humans. So, based on this, you infer that this human strength is at Yusang Tian's level? That's right, the old voice replied. For a moment the Earth realm was silent. One Yusang Tian was already troublesome for the consciousness universe. Now there was a second expert at the same level. How could they deal with it? Can our plan deal with 2 Yusang Tians at the same time? It's not easy. Then this person must be dealt with immediately. Who will do it? The Earth realm made a soft sound like a stone being thrown into a lake. We must deal with this person and leave the trap to Yusang Tian. Everyone, this is our chance. If we succeed, we can kill the spiritualized universe. Then let's do it quickly. The boundless boundary. After Lu Yin returned, he stopped and didn't move forward. Xingjue was pushed into the hell of the general appointment platform. After a few days he was released. There was nothing special about him. Consciousness life forms didn't have emotions. Even if their past experiences were repeated, they wouldn't bring too much pain. They were completely different from humans. Lu Yin had always been the nemesis of many people with his various methods. As for consciousness life forms, they might be the nemesis of the hell of the general appointment platform. Are you Yusang Tian in disguise? Xingjue stared at Lu Yin. Lu Yin sized him up. Do you want to die? No, Xingjue said bluntly. Lu Yin smiled. You only have one chance to buy your own life. If you miss it, there won't be another chance. Xingjue didn't speak. His consciousness surged and it was obvious that he was thinking about something. Lu Yin slowly said, "No one can save you and don't expect me to keep my promise. The only thing you can do is take a gamble. If you win, I'll take you to the spiritualized universe. Just like Wu Wei, if you lose, you'll die. Choose one." Xingjue thought about it. "I'm willing to join your spiritualized universe and work for you. You know how valuable a consciousness life form is. So, you're willing to take the gamble?" The heavenly tower is under the tree. Every consciousness life form had a different encounter when they entered the heavenly tower. Lu Yin knew about Wu Wei and Hua Mani's encounters and now he knew about his own from Xingjue. Not long after Xingjue finished, Lu Yin asked, "That's all? What else do you want to know? Just ask. I'll tell you everything I know. I said that I'll give you a chance to buy your own life. There's only one chance. Unfortunately, you missed it." With that, Lu Yin released the space in his heart, including Xingjue's consciousness. Xingjue was furious. "You lied to me again. The heavenly tower is the greatest secret of the consciousness universe. Already told you." Lu Yin's gaze turned cold. "But you didn't tell me about the trap in the earth realm." Xingjue couldn't believe it. "How did you know?" Suddenly he felt his consciousness fading away. He looked at Lu Yin's back and saw the consciousness planet rotating. Absorb consciousness. You can absorb our consciousness? How is that possible? Who are you? You're the greatest enemy of the consciousness universe. Let me go. I don't want to die. Who are you? Xingjue's voice gradually faded. If he had told Lu Yin about the trap in the earth realm, Lu Yin might not have been able to deal with him. A consciousness life form that sincerely joined the earth realm was indeed valuable, even if it was just bait. Unfortunately, consciousness life forms couldn't be trusted. Xingjue still hoped that the consciousness life form would be able to kill them and let him escape. At the crucial moment, the consciousness life form would only betray them. Since that was the case, he might as well increase his own consciousness. Although Xingjue had used up a lot of his consciousness during the battle, what remained was still at the starry sky level. The absorption caused Lu Yin's consciousness to surge. When he opened his eyes, the void visibly collapsed. This scene shocked everyone on the limitless star. Lu Yin hadn't done anything, but the surrounding space had become much heavier. The consciousness universe cultivated consciousness, and this place was filled with consciousness life forms that could cultivate their own consciousness. Only consciousness could sense it. Lu Yin's consciousness surged and suppressed the sky, appearing like a mountain. Lu Yin now had 3 consciousnesses at the star realm and several others. In a one-on-one battle, whether it was the 13 celestial phenomenon or Yusang Tian, it would be difficult for them to surpass him in terms of consciousness level. Once his consciousnesses completely merged, he might become the strongest of the 3 universes. If he absorbed more consciousnesses, it was possible for his consciousness to surge. Lu Yin exhaled and retracted his consciousness. He looked forward and really wanted to compete with Yusang Tian's Boulder's foundation. He wanted to see if this consciousness nemesis could suppress him. "Your consciousness is the strongest of all the life forms I've seen," the progenitor sighed and walked out from behind. Lu Yin said, "I'll give you Sang Tian a surprise." The progenitor reminded him, "The surprise will also expose you. When that happens, you'll become the greatest enemy of the consciousness and spiritualized universes." To the consciousness universe, Lu Yin's existence was its natural enemy. As long as he didn't die, the consciousness universe would be absorbed sooner or later. To the spiritualized universes, Lu Yin's ability to infinitely increase his consciousness was too terrifying. The more consciousnesses he absorbed, the more terrifying it would be. Who could stop a powerhouse with limitless consciousnesses? Lu Yin's threat was even greater than the consciousness universes, which was something they didn't want to see. Thus, Lu Yin's consciousness was both a blade and a sin. Fortunately, as long as Lu Yin didn't release his consciousness, no one would be able to tell. "There's no other way. This is a shortcut to surpassing Yusang Tian," Lu Yin said. The progenitor sighed. "It's been hard on you, Zhuzi, to put all the pressure on you." Lu Yin smiled. "Without you, I wouldn't have been able to reach this step. Senior, I'll go into seclusion for a few days to get used to my consciousness." The progenitor nodded. Lu Yin went to a secluded corner of the boundless expanse and raised his hand to summon his die. He wanted to roll 4 pips and enter the time-stop space to integrate his consciousness. He also wanted to roll 6 pips, especially 6 pips. He now had the confidence to roll the die and search for the 13 celestial phenomena. He wanted to see what the trap of Earth was. Chapter 3689. Huamani did not know, as his mission had been to intentionally allow himself to be captured. In order to prevent Yu Sangtian from seeing through him, Huamani had been kept in the dark as well. However, the other 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators in the consciousness universe should know. Xingju knew as well, but this person did not say anything. Lu Yin still believed in the memories that he had seen, and there was no need for Xingju to say anything. Furthermore, whether or not this route had been purposely given to him by Yu Sangtian made Lu Yin uneasy, and he urgently needed more information. The die slowly came to a stop. Roll 1 meant that something useless would fall out. Roll 3 meant that he could upgrade external items. As his cultivation increased, external items would become less useful. Roll 4 time stop space. Lu Yin rested for a year in the time stop space, absorbing Xingju's consciousness and fusing it with his consciousness planet and 9 skies shift, allowing him to fully control it. If he encountered another expert like Xingju, he might not be able to withstand the great sky-carving disc. Wu Wei, Huamani, and Xingju were no longer his opponents. In terms of consciousness, the only one of the 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators with unfathomable consciousness was Old Head. He was also the powerhouse that Yu Sangtian feared the most. The scene in front of him changed and Lu Yin returned to reality and continued to roll his die. Roll 6 very successful. Lu Yin's eyes lit up, and his consciousness appeared in a dark space. All he could see were balls of light. This was the consciousness universe and he could see countless balls of light, but most of them were dim. It was impossible for him to find a ball of light that matched his own. Even the balls that represented the 13 celestial phenomenon were somewhat dim. There was none here, and Lu Yin used his consciousness to travel through the dark space and continue his search. Nothing, still nothing. Lu Yin traveled through the dark space for a long time, and he finally saw a ball of light that was approaching him. It had to be a cosmic realm consciousness life form, and he hurriedly rushed over to merge with it. Lu Yin opened his eyes. That's right, he opened his eyes. He merged with a consciousness life form that was in human form. Through Huamani's memories, Lu Yin knew that most of the 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators were in human form. It was more convenient to fight against the spiritualized universe. The consciousness life form that he had merged with was one of the 13 Gui Shaoqing. This name came from a spiritualized cultivator who had died at Gui Shaoqing's hands. Gui Shaoqing had taken this name, saying that it suited the spiritualized cultivators. At this moment, Gui Shaoqing was heading towards the boundless border. Memories continued to pour into Lu Yin's mind, and he knew that Xingju's death had stimulated the other 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators. They had originally been waiting at the Earth realm to ambush and kill Yu Sangtian, but because of Lu Yin they had been forced to leave and deal with Wu Jiang first. And to deal with the boundless realms, it wasn't a direct attack but an endless path. Lu Yin hadn't expected them to deal with Wu Jiang in such a manner. In the Tianyuan universe, He Wuxian had used the endless path to delay Wu Jiang's participation in the Battle of Primeval City. Now, in order to prevent Wu Jiang from participating in their ambush of Yu Sangtian, Old Chief and the other consciousness life forms also planned to use the endless path to delay Wu Jiang. What a coincidence, or rather, this was a very widespread use of consciousness life forms. The stronger the consciousness, the stronger the endless path. At this moment, a total of 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators appeared and attacked Wu Jiang with 5 starry sky-level consciousnesses. This was to ensure that Wu Jiang couldn't get close to the Earth of Will. Logically speaking, they should be able to do it. Even though Lu Yin, the primogenitor, and the others were strong, they couldn't surpass 5 starry sky-level consciousnesses. As long as they launched a sneak attack, Wu Jiang wouldn't be able to break through the endless path. By the time Wu Jiang finally broke through the endless path, some time would have passed. During that time their battle with Yu Sangtian would have ended. This way they could avoid losses from fighting Wu Jiang and raise Yu Sangtian's vigilance. They could also prevent Wu Jiang from participating in the ambush, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Lu Yin's eyes flashed. This was actually what he wanted as well. He didn't want Wu Jiang to participate in the Battle of the Earth of Will. He had no intention of participating in it in the first place, and using the endless path was a good way to escape. He hadn't expected that dealing with Xingju would have such an advantage. It seemed that Yu Sangtian hadn't intentionally given him that route. One or two 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators couldn't possibly deal with Wu Jiang. At most, they would only attract the attention of the 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators. Yu Sangtian probably didn't think that the 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators would waste time on Wu Jiang. Wait, Lu Yin suddenly turned back to look at the Earth of Will. Yu Sangtian had expected that the 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators wouldn't attack Wu Jiang. Similarly, Lu Yin had also expected that such a powerful Wu Jiang participating in the Battle of the Earth of Will would be detrimental to the universe of consciousness. In that case, had the old chief and the others left the Earth of Will as well? If that was the case, then that route might have been deliberately arranged to expose Wu Jiang's strength and make the old chief and the other celestial phenomenon cultivators wary of him. If the 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators left the Earth of Will, then? Could it be that Yu Sangtian had never intended to start a war with the Earth of Will? His goal was to lure out the 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators, but what was his true goal? Right, the Heavenly Imperial Court. The premise of this conjecture was that Yu Sangtian knew that the Earth of Will was a trap. Would he know? Or could it be that whether he knew or not, this was his method, the most reliable method to enter the Heavenly Imperial Court? Compared to fighting the 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators, luring them out of the Earth of Will would definitely be easier. The 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators had guessed that Yu Sangtian wanted to kill his way into the Earth of Will for the sake of the Heavenly Imperial Court, which made sense. If Lu Yin were in Yu Sangtian's shoes, he would have used the same method to enter the Heavenly Imperial Court and obtain what he wanted. Whether or not he would start a war would depend on the outcome of the battle. It might also depend on the decisions of the Nine Firmaments universe. Yu Sangtian didn't have the final say on whether or not the universe of consciousness would be reactivated. His grand attack on the universe of consciousness might very well be a pretense. Everyone had been fooled. Lu Yin was increasingly convinced of his conjecture and his eyes flashed. Regardless of whether his guess was right or not, since the 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators had appeared, this was his chance. If this wasn't Yu Sangtian's scheme, then it would be a great advantage for him. If it was, then he would have to see who was faster. Just as he was about to exit the fusion, Lu Yin's gaze suddenly changed. He saw memories of the Heavenly Imperial Court and a familiar figure. The 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators had to be recognized by the Heavenly Imperial Court. Otherwise, even cosmic life forms couldn't be called the 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators. Every sentient life form had a different experience in the Heavenly Imperial Court. Lu Yin had seen what had happened to Huamani and Wu Wei, and now he had also seen what had happened to Gui Shaoqing. Compared to Huamani and Wu Wei, what Gui Shaoqing saw in the Heavenly Imperial Court left Lu Yin in disbelief. He actually saw the great desolate scorching sky beast. Gui Shaoqing saw all sorts of astral beasts in the Heavenly Imperial Court. Sometimes he would look down at the sky and watch the astral beasts develop, kill and evolve. Sometimes he would become a star. The astral beasts would fight with the astral beasts and compete for resources. He had experienced countless battles and seen the vicissitudes of time. One of them was the great desolate scorching sky beast. The great desolate scorching sky beast was an astral beast in the Tianyuan universe. It had been the ruler of the universe ever since Hunji had left. It was only when the progenitor and eternity had joined forces to kill the strongest beast that the human era had begun. The great desolate scorching sky beast had never appeared in the spiritualized universe. In the Heavenly Imperial Court, Lu Yin had also confirmed through Huamani and Wu Wei's memories that it had never appeared before. Then where had the great desolate scorching sky beast in the Heavenly Imperial Court come from? It wasn't real but rather a remnant memory or consciousness. It was like a broken world, but it wasn't a broken world. It could allow those who entered the Heavenly Imperial Court to experience something, just like the memories of the universe. But this was the Heavenly Imperial Court, so where did the memories of the Tianyuan universe come from? Gui Shaoqing had actually seen the great desolate scorching sky beast, which was something that Lu Yin had never expected. As the memories flooded in, Lu Yin's control over Gui Shaoqing's body froze, and his eyes flickered. Was that Hunji? What's wrong? An old voice came from the old leader. Gui Shaoqing's sudden stop attracted the attention of the other 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators. Lu Yin wasn't worried about being seen through. If it had been when he had just left the Tianyuan universe, then his consciousness might have been seen through, but it was impossible now. His consciousness was stronger than most of the 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators, and could even be considered the strongest. Nothing, I just thought of a possibility. What possibility? The old leader asked. Gui Shaoqing said, do you think that the Yusang sky in the reboot is really Yusang sky? The old leader and the rest of the 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators looked at each other in astonishment. Chapter 3690. Several days later, the old chief and the other celestial phenomenon powerhouses arrived and looked at the huge Boundless in the distance. We've never seen this battleship before, but it might be a trump card of the spiritualized universe. Everyone attack. The endless path used one's consciousness to extend another's. Once this path appeared, it would be very difficult to break through. The Hui ancestor had been able to break through because He Wuxian's consciousness wasn't that strong and hadn't reached the level of transcendence. Now with the old chief and the other powerhouses attacking, Lu Yin could only break through if he was in Boundless and joined forces with the progenitor and the others. This was even after he had absorbed Xingju's consciousness. Now that Lu Yin had left, Boundless could only stay in place, unable to move. On the other side, Lu Yin also saw the realm of Earth. The realm of Earth was the most secretive place in the consciousness universe, the place where the 13 celestial phenomenon powerhouses hid. It was a piece of land shrouded in moonlight, the mottled shadows of trees swaying in the wind, and white dandelion seeds scattered in the sky. It was beautiful and quiet. The winding path extended for an unknown distance, and yellow flowers grew on both sides. Even further away there was a waterfall, a mountain range, a crescent moon, white clouds and specks of starlight. The wind brought about the chirping of cicadas, and under the stream fish jumped, splashing water onto the grass, making it seem even greener. No matter how one looked at it, it didn't look like the realm of Earth. It was more like a paradise. However, this place was the Earth of Intent realm. It was also the only broken world that had color. Only the 13 celestial phenomenon powerhouses could enter. Lu Yin looked at the realm of Earth from afar. From Wu Wei's memories, he knew that Yusang Tian had almost found the realm of Earth. During that battle, the 13 celestial phenomenon powerhouses had surrounded Yusang Tian, not to kill him, but to give the realm of Earth time to migrate. The realm of Earth wasn't fixed, and once it was found, it would migrate. This was the only broken world that could be migrated on its own accord. At this moment, there was another 13 celestial phenomenon powerhouse in the realm of Earth named Frostblade. He was recognized as an existence second only to the old chief, and the other 13 celestial phenomenon powerhouses recognized his status in terms of age and consciousness strength. This was also the reason why Frostblade could oversee the realm of Earth. Lu Yin could enter the realm of Earth, but to enter the heavenly imperial court he had to overcome Frostblade. This battle wouldn't be easy. Even if he believes that the strength of his consciousness is stronger than Frostblade, but in the way of using consciousness, each of the 13 celestial phenomenon has its own strengths. Hua Mani's fear of Frostblade affected Lu Yin, and he started thinking about how to enter. If Yusang Tian really used Boundless to lure the 13 heavenly phenomenon away, he would also be thinking about how to deal with Frostblade at this moment. Just as he was thinking of this, in the distance, a huge shadow smashed into the Earth Intent realm at an extremely fast speed. Lu Yin's eyes widened. Miao Huang. In the distance, Miao Huang was being thrown into the Earth realm by a terrifying force. He couldn't even turn around. Seeing that he was being thrown into the Earth realm, he couldn't help but curse. Yusang Tian, you despicable bastard. Boom! Even though the Earth Intent realm was huge, Miao Huang's power wasn't weak either. Especially since this was a broken world, once it was shaken, the entire broken world would be shaken. However, there was no danger in this broken world. It was just that the scenery was too beautiful. Miao Huang smashed into the ground, shaking the Earth realm and attracting Frostblade's attention. Shuang Dao was a burly man with a long blade in his hand. He stood up abruptly and looked in Miao Huang's direction. The restarting battleship hadn't reached the Earth realm yet, and Old Head and the rest had left. Miao Huang rubbed his hands. He stood up and looked around. Other than the beautiful scenery, there was nothing else. Not far away there was a stream. Fish jumped out of the water and splashed onto him. He looked outside the Earth realm. In that direction, there was a pair of eyes staring at him with deterrence and killing intent. Miao Huang wanted to say something but couldn't. At this time, a majestic consciousness whizzed over. The sound of thunder instantly changed the scenery of the Earth realm, bringing with it a strong killing intent. Spiritualized universe, damn you. Miao Huang gritted his teeth. The consciousness said, "You're the one who wants to die. Miao Huang will kill you." Shuang Dao's eyes widened. Miao Huang? So was him. Miao Huang's name resounded throughout the consciousness and spiritualized universes. In the spiritualized universe, he was the 8-star dark spirit that everyone wanted to kill. In the consciousness universe, he was also the Dooku AI expert that the 13 celestial phenomenon wanted to kill. Good timing. Shuang Dao shouted. He had wanted to fight Miao Huang for a long time. Consciousness beings took the initiative to turn into human form. Although they had no emotions, they had the will to fight. Shuang Dao was the strongest. The consciousness pressed down. Miao Huang didn't want to fight, but Yusang Tian forced him to lure Shuang Dao away. There must be something that he didn't want to know. He could only fight Shuang Dao, but only for a short while. He didn't want to be surrounded by the 13 celestial phenomenon. The earth cracked. The moonlight was covered. The sky was turned upside down. Under the consciousness, Miao Huang resisted. He roared at the sky. A black light beam shot up from below, breaking the void. A figure jumped down from the stars. In his hand, a sharp blade slashed at Miao Huang. Miao Huang raised his claws. Black gravity covered his claws and clashed with the blade. Pang! A loud sound spread. Miao Huang was pressed into the ground. This blade didn't just slash at his body but also at his consciousness. Miao Huang's pupils dilated. He clenched his claws and threw the blade away. The huge force pushed Shuang Dao away. He opened his mouth and spat out a black light beam. It pierced through the void and destroyed it. Shuang Dao narrowly avoided it. He swept past the black light beam and slashed, blade sky snow. The blade slashed down. Snowflakes filled the sky and froze Miao Huang. The blade followed the snowflakes and slashed down again, reflecting the cold light. Outside of Earth, Lu Yin was shocked. What a powerful consciousness-type battle technique. This was no longer just a method of application. It was similar to Wu Wei's God's Sword. This attack could freeze a person's consciousness and it could stop Miao Huang's thoughts. Any consciousness would have been killed instantly. The two had only fought for an instant, but it was enough to bury an ordinary powerhouse. Shuang Dao was indeed a consciousness-type life form. Even Miao Huang was suppressed by his blade. On the other side, Yusang Tian didn't even look at the battle. He headed towards the depths of Earth. Lu Yin stepped forward, wanting to enter as well. However, he couldn't be too fast. He had to avoid Yusang Tian. If he was detected, he might not be able to enter Tian Tower. Frost Knife's blade slashed down and cut the frozen Miao Huang in half. However, there was no blood spilling out. Only a mirror shattered. World's Edge Mirror. Miao Huang's cultivation of sequence rules had reached the level of a deified sequence power. With this move, he could escape from the spiritualized universe if he wanted to. It was difficult to catch him. Not far away, Miao Huang panted, looking at Shuang Dao with lingering fear. This guy's consciousness was so strong that even he couldn't withstand that attack. Shuang Dao turned around and looked at Miao Huang. "Why are you here?" Miao Huang rolled his eyes. "Then I'll leave. Believe." He turned to run. Shuang Dao froze and attacked with his consciousness. Running? How could it be so easy? He hadn't noticed that Yusang Tian had already entered Earth. To the consciousness-type life forms, Yusang Tian shouldn't have known that there was a trap in Earth, and he definitely wouldn't have thought that the 13 Celestials would deal with Wu Jiang. They had the initiative, but in reality, the initiative was just a passive one given to them by Yusang Tian. Miao Huang had already completed his mission and was about to use the World's Edge Mirror to escape. Shuang Dao's consciousness couldn't stop him. However, something unexpected happened. The World's Edge Mirror shattered. Miao Huang was stunned. He could withstand Shuang Dao's consciousness, but he couldn't break the World's Edge Mirror. What had truly shattered the mirror was a gust of wind from a finger. He turned to look in a certain direction, where he vaguely saw a familiar figure pass by. It was Lu Yin, yet another shameless bastard. Behind him, Shuang Dao slashed at him again. Miao Huang could only grit his teeth and resist. The World's Edge Mirror had been shattered twice, wasting too many particles. It wouldn't be easy to use it again. Those two bastards were definitely up to something in Earth, using him as bait. No, he couldn't let them get away with it. If it was only Yusangtian using him as bait, he could only accept it. Now that Lu Yin was involved, he didn't hesitate to betray them. Shuangdao, someone slipped in. Shuangdao looked towards the depths of the earth and his expression changed. Not good. He gave up on Miao Huang and headed deeper. Miao Huang panted heavily. He had wanted to leave, but after some thought he decided to follow. There would definitely be great benefits there and he had to take a share. He was the most virtuous person in the 3 universes. The wind blew past the catkins and brushed through the grass, stopping in front of a large tree and knocking on the door of a thatched cottage. The cottage was surrounded by a fence and it was quiet and secluded. Lu Yin arrived outside the cottage in a single step, then took another step into the cottage without hesitation. Inside this thatched cottage was the heavenly imperial court. No one would have thought that the greatest secret of the consciousness universe was this cottage. Even if an outsider entered the E-Earth realm, they wouldn't have thought of it. Lu Yin had relied on Wu Wei and Huamani's memories to find out, but he was curious as to how Yusangtian had found out. Yusangtian had also charged into the cottage without hesitation, so he must have known beforehand that this was Tian Tower. As he stepped into the cottage, he was greeted by a dim light. Gray air flowed around him and occasionally cloud-shaped objects floated by. Lu Yin felt like he had entered space, but it wasn't space. He frowned. This was not what Wu Wei and the others remembered. Wu Wei, Huamani, Gui Shaoqing, and the others had appeared at the bottom of the cliff as soon as they had entered the cottage. They had looked up at the faintly discernible palace on the cliff. It seemed close, but it was impossible to reach. Why had he appeared here? Where was Yusangtian? Where was he? The gray air flowed around his finger and his surroundings instantly changed. It was as if countless memories had appeared that did not belong to him, but they also seemed to belong to him. He saw the chaos of the universe, the passage of time, the destruction of planets, and the origin of life. These memories were so profound that he felt like he was hallucinating. Who was he? What had he experienced? For a moment he couldn't differentiate between illusion and reality. Lu Yin waved a hand and shook off the gray air, his eyes filled with apprehension. For him to be unable to differentiate between illusion and reality meant that this gray air was not as simple as a memory. Even if it was a memory, whose memory was it? Was it someone? A creature? Or a universe? Chapter 3691. Gui Shaoqing saw the great desolate skyfire beast in chaos. Those were creatures from the Tianyuan universe, so how could they be here? A gray stream floated past him and Lu Yin raised a hand to touch it but then stopped. He looked around and saw that the darkness was boundless. It felt like rolling possession into a dark space, but it was also different. Consciousness life forms had appeared directly below the precipice. So why hadn't he? Was it because he wasn't from the consciousness universe? As he thought about it, a karma spiral appeared at his fingertips. With a wave of his hand, the karma spiral shot towards the gray stream. He wanted to see what kind of karma existed here. If there were memories, then there would be karma, and he wanted to know who this karma belonged to. The karma spiral pierced through the gray stream in the blink of an eye, scattering it before spreading out in all directions. Lu Yin twisted the karma and continued to release it. Suddenly, the scene before him changed again, and he appeared under an unfamiliar starry sky. He saw a young man with a handsome face and bright eyes. He had a unique temperament and was aloof from the mortal world. He seemed so bright under the dark sky, so unapproachable. He was clearly just a young man. When he saw this young man, Lu Yin, or rather Tiang's memories, also saw the karma in the young man's hands. Karma danced in the young man's hands and it was very cheerful. Lu Yin did not know how to describe his feelings. This person was very young, probably around his age, and he had also grasped the way of karma. The smile on his face was relaxed, as if there was nothing in the world that could trouble him. Karma danced at his fingertips and Lu Yin seemed to hear some sort of laughter. Lu Yin did not know why, but at that moment he felt complicated emotions. Was he jealous? Perhaps he was not jealous of this young man's control of karma, but rather of that smile. It was a smile that had seen all the beauty in the world. That purity was something that Lu Yin did not possess. That smile was even more dazzling than the light. It was enough to sting any cultivator. The most precious thing in the world was not a powerful battle technique, nor was it comprehending any power that could allow one to step into eternal life. Instead, it was beauty. The world's beauty had always been there. Darkness covered the universe, but it could not cover up that beauty. That beauty was truly enviable. Lu Shaoxian had once enjoyed that beauty as well. He had a carefree smile and eaten to his heart's content. He had the closest family, the best brothers, the most beloved woman, and the strongest cultivation talent. He had possessed all the beauty in the world. It was only at this moment that Lu Yin realized that he wanted to return to those simple days of the past. He wanted to be like this young man who could fill karma with laughter. Unfortunately, he could no longer go back. Lu Shaoxian was Lu Shaoxian and Lu Yin was Lu Yin. Lu Xiaoshuan's beautiful memories were just memories, while Lu Yin was reality. He was born as Lu Shaoxian, carefree and carefree. He would continue to be Lu Yin, tempering himself in reality. What he pursued was still Lu Xiaoshuan's freedom. This beauty would never be exchanged for another lifetime. Who would protect his family and friends? Who would protect the Tianyuan cosmos? Who would protect humanity? Who would protect humanity? Who would protect his family and friends? Someone had to be sacrificed. What this young man had obtained was built upon sacrifices. He had seen the beauty of the world and comprehended the Tao of karma at such a young age. How enviable! Time passed and Lu Yin felt as if he had been watching that young man all this time. He watched as that young man had also experienced hardships, hesitation, and the separation between life and death. In the end, that smile had disappeared. The envious smile became an eternal memory, but it would never appear again. Was it Lu Yin himself who was watching that young man, or was it the universe that was watching him? He watched as that young man became older, and that smile disappeared from his eyes for a very long time. He also watched as that young man's cultivation of the Tao of karma became more and more profound, enlightening Lu Yin. Lu Yin did not know where that person was now, but he was certain that this person had been born far before him. If this person was still alive, then his control of the Tao of karma was beyond Lu Yin's imagination. After an unknown number of years, Lu Yin felt as if he had experienced those years, but it also felt as if they had not happened at all. He became increasingly unable to distinguish between reality and illusion. On this day he heard that young man, no, that middle-aged man, use karma to cover the sky. Karma phenomenon. Endless karma filled the sky and Lu Yin was shocked. This karma far surpassed his own. Compared to his heavenly Tao of karma, this karma phenomenon could easily cover and crush everything. At that moment something unexpected happened to the karma phenomenon. The middle-aged man spat out a mouthful of blood and looked up at the sky. Who's obstructing me? The voice came from Lu Yin's side, but it was not him. What a pity! What a pity! Who are you? What's so pitiful about it? The middle-aged man clutched his chest, his face pale as he looked up at the sky. It was obvious that he was shocked at this moment, as if no one should be able to spy on him or even destroy his karma phenomenon. Your path has gone astray. What a pity. I thought that I would be able to give birth to a companion through that beauty. What a pity, what a pity. Who is it? The middle-aged man attacked, shaking the heavens and earth as he unleashed a world-shaking attack. Lu Yin could clearly see that this attack surpassed all the powerhouses that he knew of. It was difficult to estimate just how strong this person's cultivation was. However, his vision changed again and the middle-aged man disappeared. Lu Yin saw another person, this one a young man. However, compared to the previous person's smile, this young man's gaze was deeper. Lu Yin could see a shadow of himself in this young man. This young man had also comprehended the Tao of karma, but he was still far from Lu Yin's level. Lu Yin did not see beauty in this person but rather darkness. This young man had too many hidden things in his eyes and he thought of himself. Was he the same in other people's eyes? This time the memory did not observe him for a long period of time. Instead it gave him pointers. It did not give him pointers on the Tao of karma. Instead it gave him pointers on the young man's mindset, heart, and yearning for the beauty of the universe. It seemed that this memory believed that beauty was the path to the future. This pointers caused the young man to scoff and Lu Yin to feel disdain. Was this memory pure or ignorant? When a person was born in this world, other than the first few years of ignorance where they could do as they pleased, once they gained some understanding, they would not be able to do as they pleased. Beauty was only temporary, and eternal beauty would forever remain a fantasy. Humans had to see reality clearly. Actually, being born was already the most beautiful thing in the world. Battles, killing, separation, and a cruel past were enough to completely change a person. If one did not want to change, then they would have to be a madman. The memories pointers had completely failed. What a pity. You could have had a beautiful future and become my companion. You would not have been so lonely. What a pity, what a pity. The young man now seemed to have aged. He knelt in the sky and begged, I can't do it. I can't be as beautiful as you think. I can't change myself. Please give me another chance. I want to be your disciple. I have great talent and will definitely succeed. Please. The memory's voice did not reply. No matter how the young man begged, 1 day, 10 days, 100 days, 100 years, or even 1,000 years, the voice remained indifferent. You don't know anything, the young man shouted, pointing at the sky. Can you change my fate? You want me to feel beauty and have a pure heart. But what about my enemies? What about my hatred? Can you change human greed? You can't do anything, but you want me to change? You're playing with me. I won't give in. The memory changed and Lu Yin saw a group of giant beasts galloping through the sky, constantly destroying the stars. Because he was a human, did the memories he saw first have to do with humans? Lu Yin guessed that seeing the giant beasts now meant that humans no longer had any memories related to karma. Could these memories be like the river of time in the Mirage domain, where one could see the past with any kind of power? If that was the case, then would this be a different kind of river of time? But what was with that voice? Did the universe itself have a consciousness? It was not impossible, as this was the universe of consciousness, and it could also belong to a certain creature. If it was the latter, then the heavenly imperial court was similar to the river of time. In that case, could the river of time also be a creature's memories? As he thought about this, he saw an astral beast comprehending karma. The memory's voice seemed to want to find a companion, and it began to give guidance. However, his guidance still failed. Humans were greedy, and astral beasts also had their instincts and greed. Even if a creature could live forever, it was difficult to change their instincts. If a person stepped into eternal life, would they no longer have any emotions? Not necessarily. Perhaps after entering eternal life, there would be even more emotions, but no one knew. The memory's voice failed again and again, and it felt like the passage of time was constantly flowing. Lu Yin was exhausted, as he had never thought that the universe would have so many beings who had comprehended the way of karma. Although this number was almost non-existent compared to all other cultivators, each experience was a long one, and it left him physically and mentally exhausted. The memory's voice was also tired. The memory changed again, and this time, Lu Yin saw a blade of grass that was crisp and green. It sparkled under the splashes of water and it was very cute. It reminded him of a young sapling that was so pure. It seemed that the memory's voice had given up on living beings and instead chose plants, as it believed that plants were not too tied down and would be very beautiful. However, the plant had also failed. It had no emotions and yearned for beauty, but it had also lost its understanding of what was bad. Karma was a cause, and without that darkness, how could there be light? Lu Yin looked forward to it again and again, but he also failed again and again. After countless years, he finally returned to the heavenly imperial court. Gray had just flowed past his eyes, and the karma spirals had shot out in all directions. It was as if all the memories related to karma had disappeared. Lu Yin sighed. If his guess was correct, then he released his consciousness. Although Lu Yin had experienced countless years in the memory, only an instant had passed in the outside world. At the same time, Frostblade rushed into the cottage. Then Miao Huang also rushed into the hut. He did not know what was inside, but he was prepared to escape at any time. After rushing into the cottage, he appeared in a dark space just like Lu Yin, but he did not see Lu Yin, Yusang Tian, or Frostblade. Behind him, a large gray stream swept past, and he opened his mouth to fire his cannon. Chapter 3692. The beam of gravity swept past, attempting to penetrate the starry sky. However, the next moment his body moved and appeared in a foreign space. Just as he was about to look around, an indescribable chill descended upon him, causing his scalp to go numb. He looked up and gaped. What the F***ck? The universe's stars were collapsing and his body was shattering. His organs were shaking and being squeezed. Miao Huang knew this feeling very well. It was the pressure of gravity. How was this possible? Who could have such terrifying gravity to suppress him? He was Miao Huang, a powerhouse second only to Yusang Tian. He was unparalleled in the Tao of gravity, and no one had ever surpassed him. However, in this foreign space, he and even the universe itself was being suppressed by gravity. The universe was about to be destroyed. Planets were shattered, celestial bodies were annihilated, and the void was collapsing. Everything was being crushed by gravity. Miawu Huang roared, unleashing his gravitational force, only to be flattened in the blink of an eye. There was no comparison. His resistance was futile. He felt his body being crushed into powder. He was going to die, he was really going to die. There's no need for this. If you want it, I'll give it to you. Miawu Huang's consciousness fainted, but he didn't know who had said it. On the other side, Lu Yin released his consciousness, causing his surroundings to change. His body became weightless as he fell, but when he steadied himself he looked around and found himself in a familiar place. Wei Huamani and the others remembered this place with 13 celestial bodies. This was a precipice that seemed to be tens of thousands of meters high. To cultivators this height was meaningless as any cultivator could flatten it. However, here cultivators were no different from ordinary people as they couldn't climb up. Lu Yin looked ahead and saw a palace above the precipice. It was faintly discernible and it seemed to be surrounded by celestial energy. It was unreachable. Even with his current cultivation he felt that it was difficult to climb. He tried to climb up the precipice but it was as smooth as a mirror. His cultivation was useless here and he couldn't climb it at all. He was on the ground and the palace was in the sky. He knew that this was probably just a memory. If it was real he would have tried to use the overturning heaven palm. In Wu Wei and the others' memories, as long as one stood here, they would quickly bear some sort of experience. Wu Wei's sword of heaven had come from this memory, and Gui Shaoqing's memories of the great desolate sky beast and chaos had also come from here. At this moment a figure appeared not far away. Lu Yin looked over and raised an eyebrow. Frostblade? The person who came was Frostblade. As a consciousness life form he came here after entering Etion, Quebec. When Lu Yin saw Frostblade, Frostblade also saw Lu Yin. Who are you? Frostblade asked loudly. He knew almost all the masters of the spiritualized universe. This person could enter Etion Tower while he was fighting with Miawu Huang. He was definitely a master of the same level, but he had no impression of this person. Lu Yin's lips curled up. It's not too late to run now. Frostblade stared at Lu Yin and suddenly remembered something. His face darkened. You're the expert who killed Xingju. His appearance was coarse, but that was a form he took on willingly. Those who could cultivate 13 celestial phenomenon were not stupid. For example, he could tolerate Miawu Huang rushing into the heavenly Imperial Palace without stopping him. He was in a hurry to stop others from entering because the consciousness universe could withstand the loss of Miawu Huang entering the heavenly Imperial Palace. But it could not withstand the loss of others, especially Yusang Tian. He was in a hurry to come in because he wanted to confirm who had entered Etion, Quebec. It could be said that he had analyzed the pros and cons in a very short time, so it was normal for him to guess Lu Yin's identity. Lu Yin sized him up. If you don't want to run, then stay. With that he stepped forward and grabbed Frostblade. Frostblade did not know how strong Lu Yin was. He raised his blade and slashed. Arrogant. Xingju was good at survival, but he was good at killing. It was different. He did not know how desperate Xingju was when facing Lu Yin. With a loud bang, Lu Yin's palm hit the blade. Snowflakes filled the sky as Dao Tianxue fell. However, it did not affect Lu Yin at all. His consciousness was stronger than Frostblade's. His palm went along the blade and grabbed the back of the blade. His huge strength turned the blade around and slashed back under Frostblade's incredulous gaze. Elegant sun and moon. The blade tore through his skin and a trace of blood flowed down Frostblade's neck. He retreated by a hair's breadth and was almost beheaded. He had been careless. He did not expect Lu Yin to not only block Dao Tianxue's attack but also use his strength to snatch the blade. In just an instant he was completely defeated. He was on a completely different level from Miawu Huang. Lu Yin gave him the feeling that he was facing Yusang Tian. This human was extremely strong. Frostblade kept retreating as his consciousness bombarded him. Lu Yin's gaze turned cold and he stepped forward to parallel time. He instantly penetrated Frostblade's consciousness, and his right hand reached out to grab Frostblade's neck. Frostblade saw through the parallel time and suddenly roared. Lu Yin stopped in his tracks, flabbergasted. Frostblade used his consciousness to forcefully attack Lu Yin's. Even though Lu Yin's consciousness was stronger than Frostblade's, Frostblade did not want to destroy Lu Yin's consciousness. Instead, he used a single point to forcefully confuse Lu Yin's consciousness, causing it to pause for a moment and misunderstand everything around him. It was only for a moment, but this method of using consciousness reflected Frostblade's characteristics. It was completely different from Xingju and Huamani. Frostblade used the moment of confusion to retreat again, his figure quickly disappearing. He did not dare to face Lu Yin directly. This was a monster comparable to Yu Sang Tian. Just as Lu Yin was about to attack, boundless memories suddenly descended. He stopped in his tracks as the process of inheriting memories began. Only by inheriting memories could one become one of the 13 Celestials. Wu Wei, Huamani, and the others had all experienced this, but Lu Yin wanted to know what memories he could see. The universe was still very mysterious, and there was more than one universe that had appeared. Since Tianke could bestow memories of the Tianyuan universe, would it have memories of other universes as well? Soon Lu Yin saw the memories. This was a special civilization, or rather a special life form. Their form, actions, and way of life were completely different from humans, and they could not cultivate. They were a very ordinary life form that could form a civilization. Lu Yin did not know why Tiang's memories were targeting them. Time had passed and this civilization had been targeted for a very long time. Lu Yin was already numb to it. Fortunately, he had experienced the process of inheriting memories too many times. His Dai's 6 pips fused into someone else's body to inherit memories, and he was already very familiar with the process. Even if his consciousness had not reached the cosmic realm, he could still inherit memories. Soon Lu Yin moved and turned to look at the palace on the precipice. He had inherited memories, so he should be considered one of the 13 Celestials in the consciousness universe. Even if the title was just a title, it was still only a title. Over the years, there had been no lack of sentient life forms that had failed and disappeared forever. Unfortunately, the memories he inherited did not contain any valuable information. They were just a group of life forms that continued to reproduce. They survived and developed their own civilization. At this moment, Lu Yin suddenly felt that these memories might really be the memories of the universe. Otherwise, who would be so bored as to watch a group of ordinary life forms develop? The scene before him changed again, and Lu Yin knew that he was about to be pushed out of Tianke. Wu Wei and the others were the same. They had been pushed out of Tianke after inheriting the memories. Of course, they could enter again, but they had to go through the process. Around him, space changed, and Lu Yin saw the door to the cottage and the tree outside. He also saw a pair of large eyes staring at him in disbelief. Miao Huang. He had not expected to see Miao Huang squatting there in a daze as soon as he was pushed out of Tianke. Had he just gotten up from the ground? Behind Miao Huang, a majestic consciousness whizzed over. It was the old head, the others, and Frostblade. Frostblade had notified them the moment he had seen Miao Huang. Old Head and the others had hurried back after using Endless Path on Miao Huang, but they had still been too late. Yu Sang Tian had already entered. Lu Yin didn't know why Yu Sang Tian was so concerned about Tianke, but he seemed to understand Tian Quebec. Lu Yin stood at the entrance of the cottage while Miao Huang squatted. The Old Head and the others saw them from afar, and their consciousnesses descended, pressing down on Lu Yin and Miao Huang. Miao Huang was still shocked by Lu Yin's sudden appearance. He looked back and was shocked. I'm going to die again. They're all enemies. He subconsciously wanted to charge into Tianke, but he was met with a kick. Lu Yin kicked Miao Huang's head. Go lure them away. Miao Huang reacted quickly, allowing Lu Yin to kick him in the head. His skull cracked, but he grabbed Lu Yin's leg in the nick of time. Don't leave me behind, big bro ancestor. Lu Yin frowned and was about to exert more force. Miao Huang shouted, I've seen the Toad clan before, they're terrifying. I'll tell you everything. Lu Yin looked up and blasted Miao Huang with his consciousness, knocking him unconscious. This was the combined attack of several celestial phenomenon powerhouses. Lu Yin also swayed and dragged Miao Huang into Tianke. This scene shocked the Old Head and the others. This person had actually withstood their terrifying consciousness attacks? Who was he? Everything happened so quickly that they didn't even have time to react. Frostblade was the first to come out of the cottage, followed by Miao Huang and Lu Yin. When Lu Yin came out, the Old Head and the others were rushing over. Everything happened in an instant, and other than Miao Huang, who spoke a few words, no one else was able to communicate. Seeing Lu Yin bring Miao Huang back to the cottage, The old head and the others entered the courtyard and landed under a tree. Frostblade was not far away. Frostblade's neck was still bleeding and he was panting heavily. It was obvious that he had been through a battle, and there was still lingering fear in his eyes. He had a meticulousness that didn't match his appearance, and the battle with Luin had made him deeply understand what it meant to be suppressed and defeated. Who is that person? Old Head looked at Frostblade and asked. The rest of the 13 celestial phenomenon powerhouses looked at Frostblade. He hadn't been far from Luin, but he hadn't attacked, which had made them unhappy. At this moment they looked at Frostblade seriously and found that his face was pale. Frostblade looked at the old head. Did you succeed? Of course, the old head replied. Frostblade was bitter. You definitely succeeded, but you also failed. What do you mean? The old head suddenly reacted and blurted out, Is that the mysterious expert we're trying to delay? Chapter 3693. Shuangdao nodded and sighed heavily. I fought with this person for a few rounds and was completely suppressed. I couldn't fight back at all. If I didn't escape fast enough, I would have died. He looked at Old Head. Strength, consciousness, time, battle instincts, everything was suppressed by this person. He is definitely at Yusang Tian's level. These words made Old Head and the others' faces turn gloomy. They left the realm of Earth because they were afraid of this mysterious expert. They thought they had succeeded, but it was just a diversion. This person purposely lured us out and came to Etion, Quebec. But how did he know about Etion K? A lady spoke. She had a pleasant voice and was very crisp. Gui Shaoqing asked, The other one is Miao Huang, right? Why is he here? Shuangdao shook his head. Miao Huang suddenly came and lured me away. Other than that mysterious expert, there should be someone else who went in. I don't know who it is. Yusang Tian. The only celestial phenomenon who didn't take the initiative to turn into a human, spoke. He was called Yi. He used to be arrogant and thought that the trap in Earth realm was enough to bury Yusang Tian, so he didn't take the initiative to turn into a human. But now this arrogance was much less. They didn't take the initiative. On the contrary, they were used because of this. Old Head looked at the thatched hut. How did Yusang Tian know that they went out? How did he find Etion K? Why did the mysterious expert come to Etion K? They were being used, and the prerequisite was to know their whereabouts. Xingjue's disappearance was the start. How did the spiritualized universe take the initiative? The only possibility was that there was a traitor among them. What do we do now? Yusang Tian should have avoided the trap and entered Etion, Quebec. Let's wait here for him to come out. One of the 13 celestial phenomenon said. Old Head's gaze was gloomy. We can't wait. Let's go in. The most valuable thing in Etion K is the palace on the cliff. They probably want to enter the palace. We have tried for so many years and failed. Entering the palace is not that easy. We will wait at the cliff and kill whoever comes, including Yusang Tian. Since he was sure that there was a traitor among them, how could he be passive? It was very likely that Yusang Tian already knew about the trap, so why would he step into it? There was no point in waiting, so he might as well take a gamble. The most important thing was that they had tried all these years to get close to the palace, but they were unable to do so. If Yusang Tian could get close, they could also take the opportunity to enter, and no one knew what they would get in the end. Based on what he knew, there might be a path to immortality in that palace. If he could achieve eternal life, spiritualized universes and consciousness universes would be nothing more than fleeting clouds. He would be able to make a comeback in an instant. Currently, there were 13 heavenly phenomenon ascendants in the consciousness universe. They had all entered the heavenly imperial palace and were about to surround and kill everyone who entered. 13 celestial phenomenon heavenly phenomenon experts. Even if they encountered Yusang Tian, they would still be able to kill him. This was originally one of the traps. Initial evolution. At the same time, Miao Huang was looking around in the Etion palace. Where did that immoral bastard go? Wasn't he the one who dragged her in? Entering the heavenly imperial palace, the two of them were automatically separated. This result made Miao Huang both happy and worried. He didn't know what had happened before the gravity crushed him and he fainted. When he opened his eyes, he saw Lu Yin and a few 13 celestial phenomenon heavenly phenomenon experts chasing after him. That consciousness was too terrifying. He had no choice but to enter and avoid being surrounded by 13 celestial phenomenon heavenly phenomenon experts. But what was going on here? This time he didn't dare to act rashly. He looked around and didn't even dare to turn his head, afraid that he would see or experience something else. He would rather be threatened by Lu Yin than be alone. He was most worried that Lu Yin and Yu Sangtian would abandon him and leave him to face 13 celestial phenomenon heavenly phenomenon experts alone. Wasn't that just asking for a beating? The more he thought about it, the sadder he felt, but he didn't dare to move. How many years had it been since he'd felt this aggrieved? Gray energy streaked past and wrapped around his arm. He then saw memories of all sorts of vicissitudes. On the other side, Lu Yin hadn't expected to be separated from Miao Huang either. He could choose to save Miao Huang, but it wasn't a bad thing to learn about the toads. He was growing more and more curious about the star toads. The star toads were too weak, pitifully weak. They were clearly at the bitter adversity realm, but they lacked the power to do so. It gave Lu Yin the feeling that they had been passively raised to the bitter adversity realm. This feeling led to a guess. Did the star toads cultivate on their own? Could it be that this race could passively reach a certain level? Although this conjecture was inconceivable, it was still a possibility no matter how inconceivable it was. Could there be creatures in the universe that could reach the bitter adversity realm as long as they were alive? Impossible. Normal people knew that this was impossible. Otherwise it would be beyond common sense. Lu Yin believed that even an eternal realm expert like Grandmaster Grass would find it inconceivable. No matter how powerful the ninth firmament universe was, it was impossible for such a creature to exist. The ninth firmament universe was one of the most powerful universes Lu Yin had ever seen. Even Qing Xian of the insectoid nest could only reach this level, and that was only because she had an eternal realm expert like the Immortal Master backing her. The real reason for Lu Yin's guess was that the star toads were toads. There should be many toads and they could change color. Sometimes, the mysteries of the cultivation world could be found in the habits of the most ordinary creatures. Even if a person cultivated to the eternal realm, they could not escape their human nature. The same was true for other creatures. Tian K's memories had placed his hopes on the plants, but unfortunately the plants had failed because of their own habits. If there really was a race of star toads, then it would be an extremely terrifying matter. Miao Huang could give him an answer, but Miao Huang was separated from him. Looking at the darkness around him, Lu Yin did not know what to do. He had seen countless memories here and he could feel the passage of time. The only way out was to send out his consciousness and appear at the bottom of the cliff, where he could leave. However, Old Chief and the others had arrived. If he were them, he would definitely gather at the bottom of the cliff and kill anyone who went there. As long as the cliff was the only way out of the Etian Quebec, Lu Yin did not go to the bottom of the cliff. He had guessed that Old Chief and the other celestial phenomenon cultivators would surround and kill him, but the cliff still welcomed someone, Yu Sangtian. Old Chief and the other celestial phenomenon cultivators entered the Etian K and appeared at the bottom of the cliff. They spread out in 6 different directions, ready to attack at any time. Not long after, Yu Sangtian appeared. The moment he appeared at the bottom of the cliff, he suddenly looked in one direction where Old Chief was. Attack! Old Chief barked. His consciousness distorted in the void, transforming into chains that sealed off the area. Yu Sangtian frowned and took out Boulder's foundation to crush the consciousness. As it rotated, the chains formed by his consciousness were all torn apart. You're all courting death. 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators attacked from all directions. Frost Blade faced Blade Sky Snow, but the blade did not completely descend. Instead, it froze in the void, perpendicular to the ice. Yu Sangtian had become wary of Lu Yin, and it was best to stay away from such an expert. Behind Yu Sangtian was Gui Shaoqing. Gui Shaoqing's consciousness surged, transforming into a ripple that charged towards Yu Sangtian's back. Consciousnesses appeared from other directions as well. Yu Sangtian slammed his palm onto Boulder's foundation. His heart was like a boulder, capable of changing the universe. The consciousnesses around him instantly scattered, and Yu Sangtian attacked Old Chief with his other hand, parting the clouds. Old Chief's expression changed and he pointed out, condensing a sword in the void, Azure Sword. The great sky-split disc above Yu Sangtian's head smashed down. Boom! The Azure Sword was shattered by the clouds and Yu Sangtian took a step back. Old Chief's consciousness was extremely powerful, and if not for his Boulder's foundation he would not have been able to withstand it. 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators had surpassed the previous battle. The great sky-split disk descended, and Yusang Tian pushed his boulder's foundation against it. Yusang Tian flung out his robes, burning the heavens and destroying the earth. He charged towards Gui Shaoqing, his body flickering. His aura increased with each flicker. Gui Shaoqing's eyes narrowed, and an indescribable coldness enveloped him. The shadow of death descended. He gritted his teeth and his consciousness condensed into an astral beast. It was chaos. Chaos opened its mouth, and his consciousness completely retracted before attacking Yusang Tian. Yusang Tian blasted out with his palm, but before he could complete his attack, one of the 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators in the corner started bleeding from his 7 orifices. Success. He controlled chaos for an instant. And in that instant the consciousness of chaos slammed into Yusang Tian's body. Yusang Tian's eyes went slack. This attack didn't attack his physical body, but his consciousness. When the consciousness slammed into Yusang Tian would subconsciously resist it. Gui Shaoqing's goal wasn't to destroy Yusang Tian's consciousness, but to create a momentary blankness in Yusang Tian's body. Taking advantage of this opportunity, a frost blade appeared, slashing towards Yusang Tian's back. The 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators appeared at the same time, and with a flick of their fingers, they pierced towards the back of Yusang Tian's head. 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators attacked at the same time. Even with his boulder's foundation, Yusang Tian found it hard to resist. However, Dao Tianshui missed. The woman's finger pierced through Yusang Tian's body, and her expression drastically changed. "Where is he?" "Behind." Old Chief shouted. Yusang Tian's body distorted as though he was an illusion, formless and formless. Bang! Bang! The frost blade and the woman's 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators were sent flying at the same time. Boom! Old Chief shouted. All the 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators attacked at the same time, and their consciousnesses completely covered the precipice. But this attack was blocked by the boulder's foundation. Yusang Tian's gaze was cold. The boulder's foundation was ranked 3rd in the spiritualized universe, and it was the nemesis of consciousnesses. It was almost invincible in his hands and no consciousnesses could break through it. So what if you have 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators? Today I will kill all of you. After he finished speaking, he faced Yu Yi with a single palm. Among the 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators present, he was the only one who hadn't attacked. Yi didn't take any form. In Yusang Tian's eyes, his form wasn't important. What was important was to kill him. "Old Chief!" Yi exclaimed. Chapter 3694. The old man's expression darkened. "Shiwen, how long are you going to hide?" Shiwen was the woman with 13 celestial phenomenon. When she heard the old man's words, her face paled. She raised her hand and pointed once more, this time with a sword. "Sword of the firmament." The old man raised his hand at the same time. "Sword of the firmament." 2 streaks of sword intent shot towards Yusang Tian from both sides. Yusang Tian's expression changed. He didn't care about a single sword intent, but 2 at the same time posed a threat to him. This was no ordinary battle technique. A battle technique that used one's consciousness to drive the sword intent was similar to the battle technique that Lu Yin had learned from Wu Wei. It was called the Sword of the Firmament, and the 2 streaks of sword intent in front of him came from the same source. Yusang Tian's robe swept towards the 2 streaks of sword intent, but it was pierced through and dissipated at the same time. The old man looked up. Great Unity Lock. As soon as he spoke, the consciousness that filled the void suddenly trembled. Yusang Tian's body swayed and his pupils dilated once more. There was deep shock in his eyes, he couldn't block it. What kind of consciousness battle technique was this? Tao's the time. The other 13 celestial phenomenon cultivators all acted. The boulder's foundation suddenly descended and floated above Yusang Tian, blocking all of the consciousness attacks. Although it trembled continuously, it protected Yusang Tian. Yusang Tian looked up at the old man. "You've hidden your strength well." The old man took a deep breath. "Yusang Tian, it's time to end today." He then fully released his consciousness for the first time. As the oldest consciousness life form in the consciousness universe, no one knew how terrifying the old man's consciousness was. Today they all saw it for themselves. It was close to the strength of 3 or even 4 cosmic realm consciousnesses. This consciousness overturned the boulder's foundation and shocked Gui Shaoqing Frostblade and the other celestial phenomenon cultivators. The strength of the old man's consciousness had exceeded his expectations. The old man's consciousness could stand at Yu Sangtian's level, and he was now using his full strength. World lock. A loud voice reverberated through the precipice. The old man faced Yu Sangtian and pressed down with both palms. It was as though there was an invisible lock that locked down the void, locked down time, and locked down the external perception of all living creatures. The other 13 celestial phenomenon ascendants had never seen this move before, just like how they didn't know that Shiwen had the Kangang sword. In this battle they had used all their hidden techniques to kill Yu Sangtian. Under the heaven and earth lock, the old head was confident that even Yu Sangtian's eternal thought would be useless. The boulder foundation was lifted. Yu Sangtian looked up. The feeling of being sealed was infinitely close. His consciousness, thoughts, wisdom and cognition were all sealed in an instant. This was not a method used to cross the bitter adversity. This was the method of the eternal life realm. A ray of brilliance illuminated the precipice like an eternally inextinguishable resplendence. It broke through the darkness from bottom to top, penetrating the vault of heaven and the void. In the end, it turned into fireworks and scattered, illuminating the faces of the old chief and the others. The heaven and earth lock was broken. Yu Sangtian stood in place and looked up at the fireworks. Don't you think it's beautiful? The most beautiful light shines in the darkest place. The old chief stared blankly at Yu Sangtian. Yu Sangtian turned to look at the old chief and smiled. Good technique. It's very close to the power of the eternal life realm, but it doesn't belong to the eternal life realm after all. I admit that you are qualified to fight me, but you underestimate the boulder foundation and eternal thought. That ray of brilliance came from eternal thought and also from the convergence of the boulder foundation's endless and majestic sequence particles. Stars move, only the boulder foundation remains unshakable. Seas turn into mulberry fields, only eternity remains unchangeable. Yu Sangtian had it all. Regardless of the wind and rain of heaven and earth, eternal thought. Wasn't this also a method of the eternal life realm? Looking at the shocked expressions of the old chief and the others, Yu Sangtian was about to make a move. Suddenly memories flooded in. The old chief's eyes widened and he immediately made his move. The celestial sword slashed out and Yu Sangtian struck out with his palm. Suddenly the celestial sword disappeared and pierced through Yu Sangtian's palm, piercing into his body. He made his move. This was his method of using consciousness. Unlike the other celestial phenomenon cultivators who constantly condensed their consciousnesses, he constantly thinned them to create an absolute control space. Within this space he could bring about some changes. For example, he could accelerate the celestial sword to the point where Yu Sangtian couldn't react in time. Although it wasn't a killing technique, it could be used in conjunction with any of the celestial phenomenon cultivators. It was an indispensable part of the trap to kill Yu Sangtian. This part was useful. This was also the reason why he was so arrogant. If it weren't for the memories, Yu Sangtian wouldn't have any flaws. This flaw wasn't created by the celestial phenomenon cultivators, but by the heavenly imperial court. After being struck, the old chief yelled, "Attack!" Yu Sangtian felt dizzy. He could bear the memories, but it wasn't easy. His consciousness wasn't below the old chief's, but it wasn't at Lu Yin's level either. Seeing the celestial phenomenon cultivators surround him, he raised his hand, and the brilliance appeared once more. The old chief and the others hurriedly dodged. None of them wanted to die under a thought. 5 celestial phenomenon cultivators had once tried to kill Yu Sangtian, and 2 of them had died under a thought. This scene had left a deep impression on them. However, Yu Sangtian's attack wasn't aimed at them but at the precipice. The brilliance was like a shooting star, constantly approaching the precipice. The old chief and the other celestial phenomenon cultivators subconsciously looked over, but they couldn't get close to the precipice. The surrounding precipice was as smooth as a mirror, and it was difficult to climb. The higher the precipice, the more it was like a mirror. It was no longer a problem of climbing, but rather they couldn't touch it. It was as if it was infinitely far away from them. It wasn't just space but also time. Even if the brilliance was truly a thought, unless Yu Sangtian himself reached the eternal realm, he wouldn't be able to get close to the precipice. However, the result was unexpected. The brilliance of a thought struck the precipice. Although it was still some distance away from the palace, it really did hit the precipice. This was something the old chief and the others had tried for countless years, but to no avail. But now Yusangtian had done it. At this moment they didn't make a move. They all looked at the precipice. Over there, as a thought struck, ripples appeared in the void. Then it was torn apart, revealing a group of people. A group of people who were originally smiling, but their smiles gradually froze. On the other hand, the old chief and the others looked at the precipice as if they had seen a ghost. How could there be people there? Yusangtian's expression was calm. He wasn't surprised. A voice came from the precipice. Hey, what's going on? Why were you seen? Are you kidding? Didn't you say that you wouldn't be seen? That's what my grandfather said too. What was that just now? What a beautiful brilliance. Beautiful? Try touching it. I guarantee that you'll die immediately. How do you know? Why don't you see who shot out that brilliance? You know him? Humph. The discussion of the group woke the old chief up. They even forgot about Yusangtian. They stared blankly at the precipice. Who is it? The scene was too shocking and too strange. It was as if the world had suddenly become unfamiliar. The world that they knew was just a toy in the eyes of others. How could they accept this? How many years had it been? How many powerful consciousness beings had entered Heavenly Imperial Palace but couldn't climb the precipice? Now, a group of people had appeared on the precipice and looked at them as if they were looking at a joke. They still couldn't see that group of people. What was their past? What was their past experience? The old chief had entered Heavenly Imperial Palace countless times and tried to climb the precipice. How many people had seen this scene? Those people were very young. It was impossible that they were stronger than him. But what was going on? On the precipice at the front of the group of people was a woman. Her face was cold and beautiful. When they were exposed, she stared at Yusangtian. A mere inferior being who had been blessed had exposed them. So what if he was the inferior god? This position was always reserved for people from the spiritualized universe, whether it was this person or someone else. The ninth heaven universe was already dissatisfied with this person, but this person still dared to expose their existence. But how did this person do it? Why did he know the secret of Heavenly Imperial Palace? Why did he have the ability to expose their existence? According to the records, above and below the precipice were two different worlds. Even the inferior god couldn't cross over. How did he do it? Below the cliff, Yusangtian was also looking at the woman. He had never seen her before, but since she was able to appear here, her background was definitely not simple. She looked down on the spiritualized universe, which was perfect. Now that she had been exposed, she would have to bear a great sin. Looking at the woman's hateful gaze, Yusangtian slowly retreated. The old chief turned to look for Yusangtian. He wanted to know where these people came from and what was going on with Heavenly Imperial Palace. The secret belonged to the consciousness universe. Why did it seem like it didn't belong to them at all? But Yusangtian had already left. Who are you people? Frostblade shouted and looked at the precipice. On the precipice, the group of people laughed and talked. They didn't know how serious the exposure was, but they didn't need to bear the responsibility. They had followed along to gain experience. Only the woman at the front would bear the responsibility. The woman looked below the precipice and ignored them. They were just consciousness beings. If it wasn't for the superior god's order, the consciousness universe would have ceased to exist. Originally, they could have stayed and watched a good show. Now that they were exposed, the only fun was gone. The woman looked at the opposite side. There was more than one side of the cliff, but it was surrounded by an arc old head and the others could only see the woman's side. But the woman could see another group of people. That group of people was led by a man, and they looked at her with ridicule and schadenfreude. The woman narrowed her eyes and suddenly attacked. The void was distorted and rippled, spreading to the other side of the precipice. The man's expression changed. You're crazy. If you want to see, let's see together. The woman sneered. The man gritted his teeth. Crazy woman. As his voice fell, the precipice opened like a curtain, exposing them. The old chief and the others stared blankly. There was another group of people. One day, when the sky in the eyes of ordinary people was torn apart, revealing a pair of eyes, that person's understanding of the world would completely collapse. No matter how high the old chief and the others' cultivation was, at this moment, their understanding of the world collapsed. They stared blankly at the two groups of people on the precipice, like ants looking up at the sky.